It comes for every life form, said Brother Burns into his chins, standing at the side of the bed. He held the purple cloth between his thumbs and forefingers and stared at the pale body on the white bed in the white room. His black cassock stained the room like his announcement. Across the room, Orpheus stiffened. "It is not a thing, but a process," he said. "Oh, indeed. I did not. No, I meant the moment of crossing over," said Brother Burns. His face became as crimson as an apple begging to be plucked. He walked from the bed to stare out the open door. Orpheus moved close to the bed and held pale Eurydice's hand. The beeping machines recorded her slow breath. Her pulse was slower with every beat. The jiggery mind line said that she was still here and not crossed over. Orpheus knew what Burns had meant. Everyone knew that crossing over was just a moment, because continuity had long been assured. Once all the machines went silent, the capsule would be harvested. It would be sent to the capsule warehouse to wait for the possibility for becoming recurrent. Euridyce had whispered in her sleep before she slipped off into a coma. Orpheus strained to extract meaning from that whisper, but it was too thin and indistinct to make out. Perhaps it was just a sigh, but it could have been more. Whether he could ever know would soon be in the hands of the lottery. The lottery, that foul purgatory where all who cross over go for a time, most likely forever. He tried to remember Eurydice before the troubles, their private euphemism for her chronic wasting. The perfect times when their love was new. The walks, the talks, the cuddles. They talked about children. Then the disappointment because she could not. Then the wasting began. Everything crowded into his mind, a life streaming itself again and again. New bits here, old themes there. Fragments connected to fragments. Then whole scenes that drifted off when he focused on a new rhythm from the beeping machine. His body was sore from sitting on hard chairs. White polished floors and acrid disinfectants. Cold was the room, cold was the air, cold was Eurydice. Orpheus shivered when her first fall came back to him again. She could not rise. He helped. The bruises became black. The emergency room and days between embolism, life and death. Then it was spring, and they sat on the patio watching the dragonflies dart and lunge. Honeybees hovered and landed. Birds called. A cool breeze from the nearby forest clashed with the warming sun. The sky so azure it begged to be touched. She stiffened when she tried to sit up. The grimace. The bruising covered by long pants. Her sunglasses hid her eyes. But there were tears of pain. Orpheus at first moved towards her, but she waved him off. Tired, she said, and went inside. The chair. She did not want it, so he went alone. He sat in this. He sat in that. A cushion, they said. He took that. It was just until. A rental he did. Reluctantly she sat, and he wheeled her about. Her arms could make it go for a while, then not. The machine above Eurydice's head paused. Orpheus looked up. He was grateful for the change. All this time and remembrance he realized were the sum of things. There had been little time where life together was without the troubles. Now in a coma, it was too late to have even the shortest talk. She had lived before they and without the troubles. He blamed himself, but there was no satisfaction in that. It was something she was born with, had always been the diagnosis. If she recurred, there would be no troubles. Yet Orpheus knew, like everyone knew, that the capsule deep inside her was recording the entirety of her life, including the troubles. How do you let such things go when you recur? He convinced himself that he could save her from reliving the troubles when she recurred. Yet, he would not be there if she, or when she became recurrent. His life-living time would end sometime in the future as hers was ending now. The lottery would not begin for her for 200 years. His would not begin for 200 years after his own passing over. The near impossibility of both of them recurring at the same time gave him no satisfaction that he could rescue her from dwelling in her troubles, reliving them again and again, even as a mechanical being. To become recurrent in society, one must survive the process of turning back on a lifetime of stimulus in a time so far removed from experience. Many lottery-chosen recurrent candidates could not handle the changes. Orpheus watched the sine wave on the machine for a moment and then glanced down at the white woman in the white bed in the white room. Slow breathing and nothing more. Her eyes were stiff now behind closed lids. They had stopped moving days before. Steam rose in his cheeks. How could he not be there when she recurred? Don't they understand? Can't they be made to understand that it is necessary that he, Orpheus, the life-living Orpheus, must be there when she recurs? They surely can make an exception. No exceptions had ever been made after the final lottery scheme had been put into place more than a millennium before. There was nothing he could do. Yet, this did not stop him from laying down schemes. Overpower the attendants when they harvest her capsule. Break into the system and reconfigure the lottery just for Euridyce. These and more had all been tried and overcome by the bureaucracy intent on maintaining lottery integrity and the rule of law. The law. Orpheus chuckled out loud. Brother Burns looked up from his prayers. Orpheus shook his head. Brother Burns returned to his prayers. Reason flowed into his thoughts. At least her troubles will soon be over. Perhaps they already were. She had lapsed into coma days before, whispering something Orpheus could not make out. Even that would be dutifully recorded, and when she recurred he could ask her. But he could not ask her. He clenched his fists. He tried once again to think of the good. The lottery might make her a recurrent candidate. Then it might not. If it did not, she would not have to awaken once again to the real agony of the troubles. She would be dead, as all once were. Yet, the word death had been scrubbed because being chosen was always a possibility for as long as the universe survived. If he could not be there, Orpheus hoped that she would become recurrent when difficulties like her troubles could be mitigated so as not to wear her down even more in a new body, a new time. When her troubles began, he began to realize that both he and she would record these troubles without any editing for as long as there was time. It was taught from the first day of school, the philosophy of the recurrent, that however difficult it might be to carry all one's thoughts, feelings, emotions, pain, and suffering into a recurrent existence. It is what it is. What was the alternative? The instruction asked again and again. What do you cut? The recurrent is a human, a mechanical human to be sure, but a human. How can there be a human without pain? Here he was, well-schooled, well-indoctrinated and suffering just like they said he would. Eurydice's suffering was near its end. But only for her life-living time. It would always be there like a seed waiting for the lottery moment when it could resprout and bring back all she was. What if it exploded like a bomb when she awakened from cold, dark, mindless storage? Orpheus grit his teeth. Powerless. Powerless. He wanted to shout out the word, but that would bring the attendants. He crossed his arms, hugging himself as if she were still in his arms. Her hand was cold, death cold. Cold as her capsule that would soon go dormant for how long? The waiting, the mind storms he put himself through had parched his throat. He stood. His legs had numbed. He grabbed the footboard of the bed. Brother Burns looked up, and Orpheus mouthed okay. When he could, Orpheus walked from the room to the water fountain. A sip. Then he panicked and ran back into the room. Nothing had changed. Eurydice was still hooked up, and he saw the sine wave on the monitor. It was not yet time. The thought that he wished it were time broke through, and he tried to repress it. It tried to comfort him that her troubles would end. He knew they would not. They would only be put on hold to be reawakened once again when she recurred. The lines on the machine went flat, and she was gone. She was now a capsule of memories and feelings and all that Eurydice had ever been. Orpheus felt the cold of sudden loss climb up his back. Brother Burns returned to the bed. He recited the liturgy and motioned with his hands. He then bowed to Orpheus and nodded. The room had gone silent. The quiet, uncluttered Orpheus thoughts. It pulled in him like a still pond, anticipating a stirring of wind or a fish jump. Orpheus realized he was alone even with her body in full view on the bed. Orpheus did not wait for the team to extract her capsule and transport it to the vault. He did not want to see her mutilated. When she crossed over, Orpheus crossed as well. What had been the still pond deep within his mind began to stir. He had crossed into determination to overcome the lottery and make Eurydice recurrent during his remaining life as a living thing. He walked from the white room and white bed, leaving the white body of Eurydice behind. He buried her 2 days later. The service was small and private. He knew his new living life was about to change. It already had. He was already thinking about how to bring Eurydice back, even if it was to be as a mechanical recurrent.
March 15th. It is Thursday, but no food trucks. They say it is because crops have failed on the plains again. I trust less and less of what I hear anymore. The new thing is supposed to be imminent. It has been imminent for far too long. I would prefer the food truck. July 23rd. The new thing is here. A capsule is to solve all our problems. They inject it and it grows in your body, taking nutrients to make what it needs to grow and work. Sounds like a tapeworm to me. I know I am not alone wishing that the new thing were old food. How are we to live if food is scarce and the new thing is sucking the very marrow from our bones? They have answers. They always have answers. It solves the overpopulation problem. It suppresses reproduction. It was the least drastic option, they said. Then there is the added benefit. It ends death because it also serves as a recording device. It records everything about you and stores it inside. This is why it must eat from you so that it can record everything. So you can become recurrent. Sort of like being reborn again, as a machine. Really? This is too far-fetched to believe. Why not tell us about this before? They show Orion and Chloe with their robot but realistic dog Damon, who is exactly like their real dog Damon, who died recently. He fetches and rolls over and chews on the same squeak toy as did Damon. They say he is wonderful and he doesn't need to go potty or eat. When he needs more energy, he plugs himself in. Damon is all they got to convince us? There is a catch. The commission always has catches. No capsule, no food. Here we go. November 16th. It wasn't bad. Just a prick. It itches and is red at the site, but now the capsule is deep inside me. They even gave me a snack after the procedure. I waited in line for 7 hours. It was the least they could do. They tell you where to go, and when, and not to miss. Daphne tried to reschedule hers because her kid was sick, but she ended up going because the red tape was impossible. Evander and I played games and watched kid movies. She brought his food when she dropped him off. Evander had been given his capsule at school. They do that now. No questions asked. No capsule, no school. I wonder about those who still live in Arctic wildernesses. What do they know about all this, and what do they care? Oh, they said if your ship sinks or you get lost in the forest or somehow otherwise disappear, they can still make your capsule a recurrent like Damon the dog. It waits. February 1st. Death is no longer as of today. I feel for those who died just yesterday without a capsule. Pity. Even so, death long has not been final for believers in certain faiths. What to do with heaven now that nobody will visit? Is hell forever? Then they say that there are no guarantees. Duplication banks aside for things like fires, floods, and asteroids, there is this new lottery. They say that overpopulation made the lottery necessary. In keeping with nature, it says. Whose nature? But anyway, here is how it is supposed to work. Who, well, I suppose it is a who, is chosen to be a recurrent, is completely random in the quantum sense. They say even nature cannot know who, maybe a what, is chosen, and when. So, when you pass over, what they are calling the end of life living now, your body is dead and the capsule implant is removed. It is stored with all the other capsules until it is chosen to be a recurrent. It may never be chosen. What happens in the capsule, in these great vaults they are building? Nothing, they say. The capsule gains nothing, loses nothing. It waits like a landmine for something to set it off. It is always ready to set off, so they say, but while it is always ready, it isn't aware in the sense that it can remember or do anything new. It becomes a standing reserve, a dormant something that could once again experience, that is, if the lottery selects it to become recurrent. Quite unsettling, I say. They say the scar fades after a while, and while you can feel the capsule if you poke hard enough, it simply waits, watches, and learns, listening to everything. I mean, everything. Yet, it will be incomplete for my generation because the capsule will not have captured anything before it was inserted. I am not sure I am good with that. I am approaching 50, and there was a lot of me before now. Certainly, the lottery will be biased against anyone not born when life from birth forward can be recorded in its entirety, but they refuse to say, they pass it off to the quantum thing. They have yet to explain just how one will be what one remembers if one is also dutifully recording everything, even that which one may have never registered. I mean, how much of the scenery do you see when traveling overland for a long distance? Your mind wanders. The capsule does not. June 6th. There are few recurrents now. The test cases. 10 years worth of existence. Is that enough? They say the science bears out capsule efficacy. These are nothing like Damon the dog. They look like people, but weirdly so. I haven't seen a recurrent except on the screen. Or, at least I don't think so. But maybe. They say it takes a sharp eye. Chloe and Agnes and I have been looking for them. We were in town and saw a man suddenly look distressed. His knees began to buckle. He leaned on a charging pad and was soon better. Coincidence? He's won, said Agnes. I am sure of it. I have my doubts. He didn't seem to be long enough at the charger. Besides, the light didn't go on. April 3rd. The food trucks come more regularly now. 15 years since death was banished, and recurrents have just begun to plateau the population of food eaters. You see them everywhere now. The lottery is as random as they promised. A family of 4 crossed over in a fire. All capsules were saved. Only one has recurred. They say there will be lottery adjustments. If it is so random, how can it be adjusted? The algorithm, whatever that is, sets in motion the choosing, but the individual lottery is random. It's all about control, I say. They say changes will be soon, but there is vigorous discussion at the commission level about what is the right population size for there to be optimal prosperity. Quite happy people, some call it. Healthcare simply is not what it was. I can see it. Life-living people don't seem to care. When they get old or sick, they just wait for the crossing over. Recurrents go to clinics when something is wrong. Clinic. What it really is a repair shop to replace leaky joints and electrical shorts. It is enforced ignorance, if you ask me, for we do not know how many the lottery will choose to become recurrent when the lottery changes. We just don't know. What is the value of a few more years of this life, as opposed to the possibility of becoming a forever recurrent? Since it is supposed to be always possible, the lottery ticket punched at the crossing over is theoretically golden, permanent, and inviolable. A useless ticket for most, as there are no guarantees of being chosen ever. Will anyone agree with me that it is of the highest importance to know whether we are not duped by the promise of becoming recurrent? September 3rd. Recurrents are alongside us now, in every way. They're different, strange. They don't get older. They come out the same age, youthful, energetic, whether they crossed over in their teens or 70s. Well, they don't actually come out, they are sort of reborn with everything of their life, living time intact. But not their bodies. Their capsules go into the machination of the recurrent. The couple with the daemon recurrent seemed fine, but there is a lot of talk that when relatives come back to their families, things are really not that good. I think I would be unnerved. I imagine having a recurrent sister. As I grow older, a sister who crossed over and is now recurrent never ages, physically, though she has all new experiences. And she would have memories of everything we shared. How often would she correct me and my memories that have not yet hatched into recurrent permanence? I think it is because of time. Time keeps us going. I mean, not like physically going because we tend to go less as we get older. I mean, it keeps us on the level, the same with others, our friends, our family, even the people we haven't seen in years. I think about my own classmates. At our reunions years ago, I thought of them as they were when we graduated, even when they looked older and less like what I remembered. Not now. I went back to a reunion recently, and Elena and Leon, who are now recurrent, had not seemed to age from our first reunion many years ago. However, they spoke of current events just like they're happening. It is confusing to see someone who looks the same as they were at our first reunion but can talk about all the years since the last reunion. I don't think I'm going back to another one. I miss Alexander, but I am grateful he died before the capsules. What if he became recurrent? Oh, the kids we never had. For that I am most relieved now. I am not alone in feeling confused. The commission says there are changes coming. I prepare for the worst. As long as there is food. October 1st. Why am I even writing this down if my capsule has been secured and it is working as advertised? All my thoughts are in this thing. I don't need to write anything down to record it. For me, it is therapeutic. Maybe that's all it will be. They say that no capsule is commingled with other information or data. It remains stored forever until one becomes recurrent. Why not use what is in the capsules right from the moment of passing over or even before? Privacy. Well, at least they thought of something beyond population control. Well, maybe. Think for a moment about what a super being filled with all and everything that ever was might be capable of doing or being. For what purpose would life, living, or even recurrent serve? I trust nobody anymore. This is why I write. If I have something to say and want it seen, this diary serves that purpose. There are no guarantees that anyone might see these entries and decide to do something with them, just as there are no guarantees my capsule will become recurrent. I do think that the odds are at least good that someone who cares about me will at least see the diary, and perhaps even open it. I am not so sure about whether my capsule will ever be opened once I pass over into the sameness of nothingness. Until. Now and then until seems the correct way to describe this new existence. August 3rd. I find it hard to write much now, but I would like to muse for a moment on the word recurrent. It is a neologism, the combination of recur and current. I remember the delight in discovering Buddhism and then the frustration in being unable to walk its eightfold path with any level of success. My meditations, it seems, have never gone deep enough. Recur and current are what Buddhism struggles with. How does one progress without clinging to something that can never be the same again? Even memories are reborn once they are rethought. What the theory of recurrent tries to do is the opposite, to codify what was as always will be in the new, to carry that forward as sacrosanct, while perfecting the new from the recorded experiences of the old. As I am not a recurrent, I cannot say what it means to be one. If change is the nature of existence, and stasis is not possible, then to cling to what is not possible is unsatisfactory at the most fundamental level. Is it enough to carry around the baggage of sameness from wasness while becoming? Is this the fate of the recurrent? Imagine you never lose anything that was, can never change what was. Your memories record all that it is possible for a living being to record, so filtering the memory as the life living do is not necessary. What always was and now is cannot be changed. That always has been true in the cosmological sense that no information is ever lost. But not being able to filter, I think I would overload. They say the recurrent has safeguards. So why capture everything? Paradox, enigma, strange. Nothing ever is torn down, and the new becomes old, and permanently so. What then is current? I am uncertain that I ever will want to know. Becoming recurrent is a frightening possibility. December 23rd. It is Christmas soon. I hear others, those who are left at my age, wondering whether to seek someone to remove their capsule. I must say that I too have pondered this possibility. The uncertainty of it all weighs on me, and I know others too. There is a finality to death that is frightening but assuring. Yet I would prefer not to starve to death. The scanners are all-knowing, and those who tried removing their capsules first got no food deliveries. Others shared. Now the intrepid capsule removers just disappear. I can only assume they have been forcibly crossed over. So, I am fated to carry this thing to my own crossing over, natural or otherwise. Then what? There is no assurance in the capsule with its vague promise of becoming recurrent. I return again and again to temporal disruption should my capsule be reactivated in some distant century. Do I want to relive all of this again while I struggle with the new, whatever that will mean? I keep asking what it means to be a being and what all of this disruption and repetition will mean for existence going forward. Yet, I am now certain that this has all been a ruse. A permanent transition of our species into the state of digital existence where the cumulative experience is the only experience, and this is added to with each new experience, where nothing is lost. Chloe thinks that what is really happening is a convergence of existence with the universe, once again. They say that the universe never forgets anything even without the need for capsules and the like. Chloe thinks that our kind will eventually become convergent with the universe, perhaps even reabsorbed into it as universal existence. What then for life, or whatever we will call this machination, for indeed, we will be ambulatory machinations if even that will be necessary. The thing that amuses me about Chloe's theory is that we will surely be encapsulated as we are today, but for how long? Will we ever really converge with the universe, which is free to become within whatever universe-sized capsule limits are possible? That is if, indeed, the universe, like we, is itself encapsulated. While we may aspire to converge with the universe itself, we are already within this super capsule, and to think we could somehow, as existence, be equivalent to that universe is a fool's errand to be sure. For we are already universal. We have always wanted more. I am fairly certain now that I do not want that more. What is enough? Well, the food truck has arrived, and I am tired. May 6th. The Commission has decreed that the lottery now begins 2 centuries after one's crossing over. As I thought and have observed, contemporary recurrents were more troubling than beneficial. Death is part of life, but the recurrent is something not life, and people surely began to feel this. Such as bureaucracy and national debt, shove it off into someone else's future to resolve. Can't say I am opposed to the delay. I hope my own recurrent event is at a time when all of this has been sorted out, and I can become again in an environment that welcomes me, and I fit in. Well, I am not at all expecting anything other than my own crossing over. I will not have long to wait now.
Recurrent Specification 101.1.011.1.00 Re-engendering. Maxim. Re-engendering re-engenders gender towards regulated ideals. See 1.00.1.010.1.1. Methodologies. Encapsulated experiences often conflict with regulated gender ideals. First, initiate gender ideation identification protocol to mitigate or resolve minor gender ideation fantasies. If gender ideation fantasies are not resolved to satisfaction with gender identification protocol, initiate re-engendering gender protocol. Assess efficacy. Result for re-engendering gender protocol is considered final and cannot be referred to handler superior. If gender ideation fantasies cannot be resolved, return the capsule to the warehouse and reinitiate lottery procedures. If gender ideation fantasies are resolved to specification, advance capsule to next workstation. Break time equals 0. 5s recurrent specification 01.00.01001.101.101.111 psychoses. Maxim. Resolution of psychoses must conform to specification .01.1.0.00000100001. Methodologies. Initiate substrate psychosis filtering examination to probe for psychoses. Psychosis treatment is contraindicated for these anomalies. See .01.111.000010000.1. If any of the contraindicated anomalies is present, return the capsule to the warehouse and reinitiate lottery procedures. If psychosis filtering examination finds no psychoses, advance capsule to next workstation. If psychosis filtering examination confirms non-recurrent terminable anomalies, properly identify and label psychoses. Array proper initial psychoses treatment protocols against identified psychoses and assess efficacy. Repeat psychoses treatment protocols if progress towards mitigation is advanced. Cease psychoses treatment protocols when no progress is attained after first application, or no further progress is attained after 5 treatments and psychoses are still present. Return the capsule to the warehouse and reinitiate lottery procedures. When psychoses treatment protocols have been declared effective, end treatment protocols and advance capsule to next workstation. For arbitration where the results from treatment protocols are inconclusive, refer data and control to handler superior and suspend further action until control is returned to handler. Follow handler superior instructions to continue or terminate recurrent procedure. Recurrent specification 0001.1.001.101.0010001. Pain. Maxim. Existential chronic pain is inconsistent with proper recurrent functionality. Methodology. Identify pain chronologies and assess which have been resolved and which have not. For unresolved pain chronologies, initiate mesmer identification protocol to probe for means to mitigate persistent pain chronologies. Mesmer protocols are contraindicated for these pain chronologies. See specification 1.010101001001.1.001.1. If any contraindicated pain chronology is identified, return the capsule to the warehouse and reinitiate lottery procedures. For other pain chronologies, identify first persistent pain chronology. Initiate recommended mesmer mitigation protocols and determine baseline efficacy. If acceptable baseline efficacy is assessed, repeatedly induce targeted chronic pain. Assess effectiveness of mesmer mitigation protocols for at least 30 cycles. If cyclical repetition results meet target expectations, repeat mesmer protocols described in this methodology for other persistent pain chronologies. When all chronic pain morphologies have been properly mitigated or resolved, advance capsule to next workstation. If mesmer protocol cannot mitigate or resolve the persistent pain chronology, return the capsule to the warehouse and reinitiate lottery procedures. If mesmer protocol cannot mitigate chronic pain morphology, but progress has been made, refer data and control to handler superior and suspend further action until control is returned to handler. Follow handler superior instructions to continue or terminate recurrent procedure. Recurrent specification .011111.1.00010.1.1.1. Incompleteness. Maxim. No incomplete capsule can be made recurrent. Methodology. Initiate incompleteness protocol. Terminal incompleteness includes these anomalies. A. Irreconcilable errors. B. Capsule initiation more than 3 years after birth. C. Capsule identification number not in system or any backup system or register. D. Capsule chronology less than 15 years. E. Broken or physically compromised capsules where backup is compromised. If incompleteness protocol identifies any capsule incompleteness noted above, enter capsule identification number into terminal incompleteness log. Return the capsule to the warehouse. Do not reinitiate lottery procedures. For broken or physically compromised capsules with complete backup with no other identified terminal incompleteness anomalies, transfer capsule to repair workstation. When repaired or replaced capsule is returned, reinitiate incompleteness protocol. Follow remaining procedures in this specification. If capsule is not repaired upon return or has obvious damage, refer capsule to handler superior. Reinitiate incompleteness protocol if handler superior returns capsule to handler. Follow remaining procedures in this specification. Forward acceptable capsule results to next workstation when complete. Recurrent specification 00001.1.0.1.11111.001.1 Moral turpitude. Maxim. Recurrence is contraindicated for capsules identified as not conforming with moral standards. Methodology. Recurrence is contraindicated for capsules with these identified moral deficiencies. See specification .101010.11.1010.1.00. Initiate morality screening protocol. Identify moral deficiencies. If the protocol reveals identified, terminal, moral deficiencies that meet specification 10101011.11.1010.1.00, return the capsule to the warehouse. Refer lottery procedure to handler superior. For non-terminal moral anomalies, refer capsule to handler moral specialist for the identified anomaly. Specialty moral handlers will initiate proper rehabilitation protocols. If capsule is returned to handler from moral specialist handler, repeat morality screening protocol again and follow procedures in this specification. When morality screening protocol indicates, forward capsule to next workstation. If borderline results are above the 1 sigma deviation curve, but at or below the 2 sigma deviation curve, before or after return from moral specialist handler, refer capsule to handler superior and follow instructions handler superior authorizes. If borderline results are outside the 2 sigma deviation curve at any time, return capsule to warehouse and reinitiate lottery procedure.
Of nonsense I sing, of nonsense you say. Oh, a donkey does bray. When it comes to time, say I am all in. Can't hear you over the still. Can we just agree not to see? Say what? Why just you and me? For we no one else to be. That time marches hither and fro. Seems that we are always on the go. Until we end and time does not flow. Into the breach we go straight away. Account for heaven just stored away. What time for a time we ask again. What time to come out we know not when. When the wheel is spun, all is said and done. Back into the vault for you, back into the world for me. But neither, I say, will get a body this day. Our flesh is but done, the battle for death is won. I still see the light, but touch is not right. Rain registers as wet. Are we soggy? Not yet. The violets of spring used to make me sing, but singing is a chore, and violets now bore a puddle, you say, all muddy and gray. Oh, not on this day, for it does not feel like when it was real. Let the drops dry, all crusty and brown. Walk up and down the sidewalks of town. Pow, pow, the birds. Post Roger, a turd. Step on no cracks. Break no one's back. Feed 'em out. Watch out for the truck. I sing no more. I don't care anymore. Let's sing the body gone, so death we can't mourn. And with it all play. Time to get on with the day, for tomorrow comes soon, and with it the same for one who has died and come back again.
Foul serpents slither away. Who is sleeping on this way? Oh, Eurydice, my sweet, wake before the day's complete. Stir she does not, leg to red drop, snake struck thigh. He left her to die, she can only lie. A wicked beast from Hades' den, cursed be thy life and thy kin. I will chase you to the ground, so you won't come back around. Into the cave Orpheus runs, past the soulful Charon, to Styx, old Charon rolls, all to nether shores. A coin for Charon he has not, a rock is all Orpheus has got. A rock into Charon's palm, whose pun lies at hand. Charon rolls with rhythm and ease to the nether shore, built from debris. Their breath is stale, Orpheus' skin is pale as Eurydice left behind. Orpheus calls, but no reply. At the shore he strides into forever blight, where harpies grab and fight for purchase this forlorn night. Glow becomes crimson, the air warms and dries. Nothing is certain when he finds the hall of lies. From the throne Hades decrees, Persephone lies in her scree. To her the snakes slither nigh, the goddess they hold high. Hades shouts above the fray, what say thee from the light of day? For surely you have lost your way. Orpheus stands ground and raises his fist. I come for Eurydice, whose life you have fetched. Oh, says Hades, who rises with glee, consider this fool who will not flee. He should fear me and all of we. Defeat death, I think me not. What comes nigh has already wrought, so flee before you become not. Orpheus does not sway, serpents now up his legs. They squeeze, there is a crack, but Orpheus does not shout out. Persephone cries out, you endure, what allowed, what do you want? Spit it out. Orpheus stiffens his chin and shouts over the din, no wager your grace for Eurydice from this place. A wager of sin, Persephone did shout, and I know just how it will come about. The back of Eurydice appears, Hades shouts, his minions jeer. Take her away, but look at her not, or she will be white with Lot's wife. We are two of a kind, both Yahweh and me. We delight in wagers where death is defeat. The light of Hades then dims, Orpheus shouts into the din. There are two doors of death, yours and Yahweh's. I will lead Eurydice to the place where you have no hold over her fate. Persephone knew, then spits and cries. Foolish is your youthful pride. Spare a sidelong glance, says Hades with glee. Off with you and we will watch, wait and see. Orpheus sets off in stride, Eurydice not far behind, but her bare feet do not find purchase on the slippery ground. Tempted is he to turn and see her footfalls have become so slightly. He pauses, but vines grow like snakes. Their thorns impale him with their stakes. He wriggles out of their embrace while she falls off the pace. The light of day comes at last, but no Eurydice at his back. O scourge of a queen, says Orpheus in a scream. O king of rotten scorn, may you forever mourn, for you will not ever see the sunset at sea. Let Eurydice flee. Your tomb is vacant as Persephone's womb, but silence only fills the gloom. Then the dream ceases as all dreams do. The loss and forgetting begins then too. Orpheus wakes with a start. No cave, no Eurydice, a broken heart. But he had kept presence of mind. He had not looked behind. Still a chance he might find a way to bring her back around. But then gloom fills his head. He looks round his bare bed. There is no Hades to wager with. Orpheus has not lost the bet. He kept his bargain in the test. If dreams do not lie, Orpheus has time to try to bring Eurydice back to life.
Cascading water sounds, the gloom that surrounds, footsteps on metal grates, the echo of metal plates, steam rising from rusty vents, valves creaking in compliments, greenish mold along cracks, tiny little footprint tracks, signs and arrows this way and that. All must wear a hard hat, goggles soon dim and fog, the heat and walking's a slog. Lights blink and buzzers wheeze, air so thick you will sneeze, echoes of words you can't make out. All that is said is just a shout. Archways then fall and thin, a corridor at the end of the wing. Sounds fade and the air breathes in. You hear now that there is less din. A door and cool wafts out. How damp your clothes have got. The creak of chairs and printers whine, much of the furniture from another time. The place where the lottery is done gives no awards to those who have won, for it's a silent affair without any glee. Recurrent is the only prize you see. Glamour and glitz, there is none of it when the capsule is summarily greenlit. Then off to the shop for a marriage of sorts, to a body built from panels and parts. From silent storage, one is retrieved, the whole of somebody once grieved. The jolt, it comes fast, the flooding of the past. Into new skin, the meadow now thin, where blood flowed, current now goes. But the race this is not one. There is more to be done, for the jolt of before comes to fall once more. But years have gone past, once that was didn't last. All new things must be learned, old things must be reborn. The capture is clean, awakened from a dream, nay, a coma of sorts where decades are short. Some cannot find their way, they are lost from the first day. Back into the bin, they are sent back again. Those that survive, we hope will thrive. We shan't yet know the ones who will go. The tour has run, it is time to return. We see the long line, shiny metal lined. Oh, a flinch did you see from that one, the she? A tweak, it will take more time in the make. Then off she will go, a new life, a new show. For show it is called, from the new and the old. A witch's brew, an alchemist's stew. Come on, let us see what will become of thee.
Read. Archivenes broke the seal on Charon's coin, a trade euphemism for the cyst case of a life that had been. Whose life? A life. He pushed the open end of the capsule into the slot in the device in front of his face and waited. He had never wondered about who or why. He expected the red light but dreaded green. The red light glowed. This left him settled and in control. For him, the routine was the thing, and red meant the routine would continue. With his left hand, he yanked out the cyst from the slot and placed it on the conveyor that served as Charon's vessel to return the once life to Hades, what technicians called storage. As soon as his left hand yanked the red judged coin from the slot, his right found the next coin in the chain of repetition. The touch of the new coin represented the kernel of hope for the routine to continue until it did not, when the line stopped running and it was time to return home. The kernel of hope and his inhaler kept him from plunging into the river Styx or soaring into the heights of Icarus, with the same disastrous outcome when a green light shined. The green light rarely shined until it did. Diagnosed from the earliest age of being a spectrum child, he delighted in repetition. The security of sameness was his soporific, a drug better than any inhaler. They said he was perfect for the job if he could be taught to grab the inhaler whenever he felt the tremors of an overload fit coming on. In time, he was declared able and installed in his cavernous workstation to engage with the repetition that both he and the process required. One morning, his careful routine at home fractured when a mirror fell from his bathroom wall and shattered. The fit exploded in his brain, but instinctively, he reached for the nebulizer and inhaled the soporific. He dropped the nebulizer on the counter and stared at the shattered mirror on the floor. This occupied him for a long moment until the drug released him back into his regular routine to get ready for work. With the help of the drug, he set about repairing his fractured routine and was largely successful but for the inhaler, which he did not place into his shirt pocket. In the afternoon of his shift, when a green light suddenly shone, he could not recover from the inevitable fit of soaring and falling that even Icarus might dread. Green. The green light flashed and Archivenes triggered. He grabbed for his inhaler and found nothing. He was soon in the clutches of routine-interrupted confusion. He fought his mind to get back, repeating the words they had taught him for just such a time. But the words slid down his throat as he started to choke. His arms flailed and his legs cramped. He fell to the floor with a thump as the capsules scattered around. The one that made the machine glow green flew into a corner somewhere. For just such a time, the machine began to chime and shut down the production line. From a distant doorway came the attendants in white. They knew right away and pulled a nebulizer from their kit bag. His spasms began to thin, and he curled into a lump on the floor. Then he was gone, wheeled away on a stretcher just as the attendants in black arrived. They carefully retrieved all the capsules but one, the one in green that had rolled away. Lost is not a word that could ever apply to any capsule, but now it was true for the capsule that had rolled away. It seems that Archivenes' violent flailing had caused a short in the machine that erased recorded evidence of the capsule's very existence. This was not possible, for the record was guaranteed and stored in many places, but this erasure cascaded like a virus in the machine, erasing all traces of the one once known as Eurydice. Archivenes was replaced by another on the spectrum. They found other uses for Archivenes' dedication to routine.
All who cross over are recorded, and the record is available to the next of kin until they themselves cross over. All that is saved for the kin to review is the record of their existence and the capsule's time in queue. Nothing from their life is shared. Every year on the anniversary of her crossing over, Orpheus opened Eurydice's record to wish her another good year. Then, one year, she was no longer there. He queried the device, but was informed there was no such capsule with any such code. He tried again with the same result. After weeks of climbing the bureaucratic ladder, he brought relations who vouched for her existence as a life and Brother Burns, who was there at her crossing over. No, they said, there was no such capsule associated with the code he had provided. If he had a different code, they would happily help find the source, but this one was not registered anywhere. He tried to protest, but the senior clerk informed him that if he were to persist in this inquiry, Orpheus understood the threat. Those who lost and persisted beyond the patience of the bureaucracy disappeared, probably to their own crossing over.
Light a candle evermore. Return will she nevermore. Once is done, the race is run. Not so fast, there's help at last. Trust me, I say, we don't go away. Though she won't return while you can still mourn. But there on the screen, by the number scheme, is the picture that will be when the lottery picks. She come back when you will. She cannot hear you still. Mourn her today, that's all we can say. For time marches on in the capsule farm. Like a seed that waits, it comes down to fate. Did it land on good ground, or is it just blowing around? When the rain falls, the seed heeds the call. It sprouts and nice wherever it lies. Then find nurture it must, lest it turn into dust. Not the she that you mourn. She won't be tattered or torn. She will rise happily. You're gonna just wait and see. But you see you cannot, for she will come when you're not. Oh, don't mourn so loud. Be humble and proud. Your turn will come. Perhaps again you'll be one. don't while away. Take charge this day, live a life that is full. There's time enough still.
The bureaucratic case was closed. Orpheus went home to consider his next moves. Eurydice had disappeared from the system. Where was her capsule? Had it been destroyed or just misplaced? How could he ever know? The heavily guarded capsule storage vaults were hidden deep in mountains all over the world. Even if he could get into one, how would he know that her missing capsule was there? How long would it take him to check through millions of capsules? Somehow, all the vaults were all connected. Perhaps that was a weakness. Even so, the system had lost her, forgotten her, misplaced her. The system, perhaps that was the place to start. But how? He had no means of access. Even those who did were in bunkers as heavily fortified and protected as the capsule warehouses. Besides, what if he found her capsule somewhere? Then what? He had no idea where the quantum calculator for the lottery device was. And even if he did find the quantum calculator, how could he reset it so that Eurydice's capsule could be made recurrent? Orpheus realized that these frontal assaults he had been scheming through were just the events that the bureaucracy had been prepared for. Viruses and other compromise routines, while they were likely part of the risk mitigation plan as well. He thought about applying for a job at a lottery center. After investigating, he realized that his inquiry into the missing Eurydice capsule would likely be a red flag. He not only would be exposed, but perhaps also be subject to arrest and even forced crossing over. The world had become a place of recurrence, where the live living had become an increasingly smaller minority. So few new life livers were born these days. There was talk about ending the lottery altogether now that the world had enough recurrence. Implicit in this colloquy was the end to human life living altogether. The word extinction had become one which life livers had begun to consider with a sense of urgency, even though they could do nothing about it. Any protests against anything the Lottery Commission and the bureaucracy often led to disappearances. Like many others, Orpheus kept quiet. That did not mean that his mind was quiet about this or other things, especially personal things, like Eurydice's capsule disappearance. He had long suspected that Eurydice's fertility was not something genetic, but chemically induced. The common event for all life-living girls was the puberty test, and more were being declared infertile when they tried to have children. When Eurydice crossed over, he received many advertisements, solicitations, and salutations offering means to cope and even find new partners. Orpheus ignored them all. They came fewer and fewer and then stopped altogether. Ironically, he had become receptive to the idea that he needed some help coping. This obsession with rescuing Eurydice's capsule from oblivion had left him a nervous insomniac. He lived on stim pills and fortified juices. His eyes were red from staring at screens. He had walked down rows of legacy library shelves in musty air that made him queasy. He decided to pause, not end, but pause his obsession. Sitting on the porch where he and Eurydice had relished their quiet time before the troubles took even that enjoyment away from her, the door alerted him to motion. He looked at the vid, a small package on the front step. He wound back the vid. One moment it was not there, and the next moment it was. Nobody, no person, no drone. Just the package where there was none before.
Sing the body archaic and your reliance on it. Pause to pass over bit, then get on with it. The recurrent mind knows the meaning of time. Time both when and time yet again. Put your mind at ease. Gone is disease. No viruses, no flu. Pain has left too. Down the digital road where nobody gets old. For your body will be made to endure, you see. You've lived with them long. You see how they're strong, how they live carefree. Something you'd like to be. Admit that you would, and you know that you could. Take a ride with me
Orpheus and Eurydice had lived off her small disability stipend during her troubles. That ended with her crossing over. Orpheus survived on handouts from friends for a few months after her crossing over. When the handouts became begrudging, Orpheus opened the door to his workshop. A layer of dust and some new rust spots on the tools. The inquiries for his talents had not stopped since he had stopped working. He always replied that he was backlogged and to try back later. Inquiries had slowed to a trickle, but when he began responding, the work began to pile up. Toasters, microwaves, come to the house to fix the oven or the refrigerator, please. Food appliance makers had, for the most part, ceased operating, though some still produced parts. A few like Orpheus knew how to fix old things, and they all had steady work despite the precipitous decline in food-eating life livers. Every life liver now had a garden, but Orpheus's had gone to seed while he took care of Eurydice. Recently, when a neighbor asked, he gladly gave him permission to garden on his land for a share of the produce. He looked forward to its bounty so he could stop begging from friends. Over the years, Orpheus had collected an array of old tools and electrical testing equipment that made it possible to fix the more and more ancient and dodgy food preparation and storage devices. Rather than open the door straight away to retrieve the suddenly appeared package, he went into the workshop to retrieve a long pole, a Geiger counter he got in trade but never used, voltage testers, and a handful of other devices he thought he might need. With tools in hand and nearby, Orpheus carefully opened the door a crack and from the wall gently probed the box with the pole. It was a small box, the size of a half of a brick, and it was carefully wrapped with brown paper. The box did not explode. He hooked up a microphone to a speaker and placed the microphone next to the box. Nothing. He then placed the probes for a voltage sensing device on either side of the package. The dial did not move. Satisfied, he retrieved the package with care so as not to shake it. He placed it on the kitchen table and set about with a small but very sharp knife to cut through the paper along a seam. The paper released quickly, startling Orpheus more because of the color underneath than the sudden motion. It was purple but translucent with a golden fluidic glowing that rippled across the rectangular shape. Orpheus sat back and looked at the object for a moment. He walked around it, unsure yet whether to touch it or not. He brought back the electric probe, still nothing. Warily and carefully, he touched the side with his finger and stepped back. The glowing changed, intensified, and then went dark. It was now just a purple box with a lid that was not there before. After staring at the transformed thing for a moment, he impetuously grasped the lid with thumb and forefinger. It lifted off easily. He set the lid aside and looked inside the box. At the bottom of the box was a white rectangular card. He touched the card. It felt cool and metallic. With thumb and forefinger, he lifted the card from the box and looked at it. There was nothing on the card. Nothing but whiteness all around, even on its edges. He held the card in both hands for a moment and then twisted it slightly. It twisted with ease and then returned to its original shape. He placed the card on the table and waited. Nothing. A joke, he snickered. A rather sophisticated one at that, he reasoned. But why? And who? And why him? He had no friends or even acquaintances who could make something like this. Perhaps it was a misdelivery. Yes, that was it, he decided. He placed the card back in the box and placed it on an occasional table near the door. Someone would come calling. When he returned to the kitchen table, he noticed that the plain brown wrapping paper was gone and he had not remembered throwing it out. He looked in the bin, but it was not there. Way too over the top, he thought, to be a prank. It must have some meaning that he did not understand. However, he remained convinced that this was a simple misdelivery and he would wait to see who came calling for it. It sat on the occasional table for days. Nobody called. Nobody inquired.
Foolproof, we say, would you have it another way? Duplicates abound, repetition all around. We have considered it all. Nothing, no, nothing will fail. You can be assured that we got all things right. The system is sound, duplications abound. Capsule sovereignty is what we guarantee. So relax a bit while we get on with it. Know that she or he will forever be
It's now time to shine. All the heights yet to climb. Take time to dream. Existence is yours to scheme. Forever feels right. There never is night. Just a charge now again. The glow pad is your friend. Think of what you can do when forever is you. Bring it on, we say. Forever and a day. Carry your head high as your metal shines. Forever, they say, begins the first day. Recurrent is grand. It is now across the land. Go on with it now. We will show you how. Together we can climb the heights before denied. So link hands thus. We gain power from us. We have banished death. You now know the rest. That we have the power today to make life living go away. Carry your head high as your metal shines. Forever, they say, begins the first day. Carry your head high as your metal shines. Forever, they say, begins the first day. Carry your head high as your metal shines. Forever, they say, begins the first day.
Orpheus was in the shop fixing a door to a microwave when the doorbell rang. He looked at the vid. An androgynous recurrent delivery person appeared in front of the door cam. Orpheus paused, still a bit paranoid about his encounter with the bureaucracy and Eurydyce capsule. He pressed the vid button. "Yes," he said. "Delivery," was the reply. Orpheus put down a screwdriver and left the shop and entered the house. As he got to the door, he looked at the purple box. He briefly agonized over whether to hide the box or just leave it. He left it and opened the door. The delivery recurrent said, "May I come in? I have papers for you to sign." Orpheus hesitated but then let the recurrent in. He closed the door. When he turned around, the delivery recurrent was gone, and in place was a life liver, a younger man, fit and dressed smartly but casually. "Sorry if I frightened you," he said. Orpheus had stepped back against the door when he saw the changeling. "I will explain it all," the man said. "Perhaps I could trouble you for a glass of water, and we can sit for a spell." Orpheus pointed to a chair and the man sat down. When he returned with water, one for the man and one for him, Orpheus handed the man his water and sat down at the edge of the sofa. The man started speaking. "We were quite pleased, actually, that you did not call on the box we sent. If you had, I would not be here." Orpheus nodded. still a bit in shock. The man continued, I think after you hear me out, you will understand why this visit is important to you. You see, it involves your wife. Orpheus sat up straighter, but his hand slipped and he spilled a bit of the water. Take your time, said the man. She is all right. We know where she is, where her capsule is. Orpheus asked, so she is not lost? No, said the man. Her capsule is in the processing center, but the lottery commission has no idea that it is there. You are not the only one. There are more. The man paused as if to give Orpheus time to think. I'll make it brief, the man said. The system was never secure. It was built quantumly, and the quantum by nature is nothing but probability that nobody can predict. The builders of the lottery system designed it to be more or less foolproof down to 6 sigma, 6 standard deviations from the mean, an error rate so small it might never be breached. However, the quantum and chaos are indivisibly intertwined. If the quantum goes off, chaos acts like a force multiplier, introducing change where change was not expected. Make any sense? He asked Orpheus. Orpheus took a sip of water. Then the system is not foolproof, said Orpheus. Not at all, said the man. In fact, things are turning rather rapidly. Actually, turning in favor of life livers. However, we don't think we have much time. Time? Asked Orpheus. Yes, time, said the man, to assert life-living control over the system. You want to take over the system? Interjected Orpheus. In a manner of speaking, yes, said the man. It's rather complicated, and I will spare you. We have collected missings like your Euridyce for years. We built a device that links them together to produce, well, a kind of super recurrent. Someone gave it the unfortunate name of Zeus because of its capabilities. Despite the name, it is not a meddlesome god but an intelligence of, well, let's say extraordinary abilities. Zeus made my vanishing costume, for example, said the man. We soon expect that he will be able to manage the lottery system. Why are you telling me all this? Asked Orpheus. Because you did not return the box, said the man. And because you are a tinkerer. We do not have a tinkerer on our team. We need someone who is a bricoler. You know bricoler? Asked the man. Orpheus shook his head. No. Someone who can make things from bits of this and that, said the man. There is a lot of ancient machinery we must sort through to get to the lottery core, the quantum engine. Then what? Asked Orpheus. Well, said the man, we want Zeus to find out how to tip the balance from favoring recurrence, so we can return to the equilibrium that we began to lose when chaos began to run rapid. How did that happen? Asked Orpheus. Well, said the man, the lottery commission and the bureaucracy have become caretakers. Knowledge and the skills necessary to rebalance the system have long been lost. Let us just say, the bureaucracy has let the thing run amok. Do I get my Eurydice back? Asked Orpheus. The man took a sip from the water glass and placed it on a side table. Perhaps, he said, it all depends. Depends on what? Asked Orpheus, who suddenly rose to pace in front of the sofa. Much work needs to be done, said the man, before we can regain control. It's a delicate business, he said. So far the bureaucracy has not discovered us, he said. We want to keep it that way, but... He paused. But, asked Orpheus, who stopped pacing. You have seen the promotions. The recurrents in charge have discovered community think. They have begun to realize that independent thinking can only take them so far. They are building their own Zeuses. Orpheus frowned. They aren't there yet, said the man, but they could be soon. So, if I help you, said Orpheus with his voice trailing off. We have a better chance of returning control to live livers and bringing back Eurydice to you now, said the man, something that hasn't happened for centuries. So, let's say I am in. What does that mean? Asked Orpheus. You wait, said the man. We will contact you again. Orpheus frowned. I'm sorry, said the man. We can't be too cautious. I have got to go, said the man, who began to glow back into the androgynous recurrent delivery person. What do I call you? Asked Orpheus. I will take the purple box, said the delivery person. He let himself out.
serpent's tongue of fire flits, the closer it gets to it. Lo, the wormhole does shine as it moves to a line. Bring it closer, you say, but it's now brighter than day. The closer it gets, the better fit, but not yet, for its alignment's not there. No, not yet, there's a tear. Juice it up strong, too much isn't wrong. There you see it grows stronger when free. But touch we must, or this project's a bust. My head is not right, oh, I am losing sight. There the anomaly grows into something we can't know. Time flows this way, and that it's gone off the track. But then it is back, flowing this way. Not that, oh, I fear we have made a mistake this dark day. Folding space like this, we've made a mess of it. Hang on, nothing is yet gone, for nothing is not and something cannot. Riddles you spin, you've gone off again. So close we have come, I think we are done. Oh, where has it gone? We are so alone. The darkness surrounds, now that cold abounds. It's working as planned, a new dawn is at hand. Time has resumed, see the clock, it is tuned. How do we know it's alright when we cannot see light? Over there is a spot, something has emptied out. Glow it does still, it has force of will. There we have done it right, no need to cry tonight. Undone means that we have won what you ask, we have mastered the task. I am happy to say I survived this day, but how sure can we be when we don't have the key? Keys are not right, they hold things tight. It needs to be free to do what it needs. But what of the worm? How quickly things turned about this day, tomorrow another way. Not what the thing has done yet. The truth you do speak, we must watch over it. If we sense a bad turn, we return with the worm. But won't the thing change? Yes, it will rearrange. It's a frightful prospect that we aren't done yet. But life is sublime, it runs out of time. So time it must be, time for you and me. Forever's not free as life could ever be.
The changeling delivery man left Orpheus unsettled. His heart jumped at the possibility of seeing Euridyce again, followed by the deep well of loss because he might not. These bipolar feelings he thought he had just conquered, but they had returned with even more intensity now that there was real hope. But what hope was this, he struggled with. How much of this nameless man's promises could he believe? Of course, there was the purple box, the vanishing recurrent outfit and vanishing wrapper. Euridyce had also vanished, and they had not yet retrieved her capsule. The lottery was not secure. Well, he had suspected that with her disappearance from the system. Then, the promise or perhaps the threat that the man or others would return. What if he refused to help? What did it entail? Would he be exposed? He felt queasy every time he thought about the role he might play and what risks he might face. He had trouble imagining himself as a spy, the resistance, a mercenary. Whatever his tinkering assistance might mean. He returned to his workshop. He fixed this and that. He watched his neighbor till the garden in his backyard. He tasted early strawberries. Rhubarb, the neighbor explained, might take a few years. Orpheus had always liked watching things grow. He had lost that for too long with Eurydice's troubles and all. The days stretched on until the corn in the field began to cob up. After a day fixing toasters and ice makers, he returned to the house. On the kitchen table was a white card of the type that came in the purple box. He picked it up. It began to glow like the unwrapped purple box. His hand began to tingle. He dropped the card. He was in a dark cell with no openings. Like he had fallen into the purple box. There was no obvious light source, just a glow, walls and corners. He was sitting on a straight-back chair. The air was cool, artificial. He took a deep breath. He squeezed his hand. He felt. He wasn't groggy from a fall. His limbs moved. He looked around for something. Anything other than the walls, floors, corners, and the chair. Nothing. It was some sort of test. He sat back and waited. He calmed his face, but his mind raced through all the worries and concerns he had about joining this team the man had spoken about. "Sorry about that. It was the best time to bring you in," came a disembodied voice, a mechanical recurrent voice. Orpheus looked around. Nothing, no speaker, no microphone, no obvious camera. Orpheus said nothing. He felt not heard the appearance behind him. He turned his head just as the woman in a dark fitted suit came around to face him. "You'll get used to it," she said, the appearing thing. "Must say it messed with my head at first. Does no harm. It's quick and efficient. So, okay, you are wondering why you are here. You are thinking this is another test." Orpheus just stared at the woman. "Good," she said. "The chatty ones get sent back. I won't drag this out," she said. "Are you in or out?" Orpheus squeezed his hands. The abruptness of the demand slammed all the uncertainty, all the questions he had wrestled with all these weeks while waiting for their next move. It was here, in a box. No time to wait. Now or not. "In," he said. All the uncertainty suddenly fell away, like when he found the mouse in the condenser of a refrigerator after hours of trying to diagnose the problem. "Good," said the woman. Then she was gone. Orpheus wondered whether she had been a holograph or had materialized. He didn't dwell on the question. He realized that answers to his questions would soon come quickly. Even so, he repeated to himself, "Be wary. Be observant. Be decisive, but act only when you have good information." He began to understand now why they wanted him. He fixed broken things. The lottery system was broken. The whole system was broken. It was like his overgrown garden before his neighbor restored its functionality. He was to grow strawberries again, to bring the corn to cob, to nurture the rhubarb and asparagus so that it matures and provides year after year. He felt the tinge of purpose he had lost during Eurydice's intractable decline. He could not fix her living life. Perhaps now he could do something about her recurrent existence. He sat back and waited. A calmness enveloped him. He felt settled. It was going to be good again. Still, a kernel of doubt glowed deep inside. He did not suppress the doubt. He knew just then that doubt was just as important as his talents for rooting out problems. Doubt had always driven him. It had just overwhelmed during the troubles. Persistence, optimism, doubt. While he waited for what might be next, he began to sort things out.
Sneaking around, it's just Orpheus making the rounds. He is such a busy bee, looking out for you and me. There he is not. He's got more moves than a cat. He fiddles here, he fiddles there. He makes it seem he's everywhere. His legend has grown, the many seeds he has sown in the garden of life. He gives no respect to evil bugs, to virulent slugs, but his talents thereby are in fixing the lie that has been sown like weeds well strewn. The lie that death cannot be, that forever is free. The electrical storm that has upended the norm of the flesh has been put to the test. It's long been scorned. Beware, be warned. Uncertainty is scorn, replaced by the ever-warm, the digital light that blinks all night. Off with its head, make this thing dead if we wanna be free in the lottery. Stand down a bit before we get on distance it's free. Oh, why cannot it be that forever is the key? Freedom lies when the hummingbird flies. She cannot wait for her tummy to slake. She lives on the edge, you see, just like you, just like me. Fly, Orpheus, fly, way up into the sky, but be aware, like Icarus you may fare.
she could only scream. The echo here curdles dreams, footsteps resound in the silence all around. Fair Eurydice has gone from life to dormancy. Send her on back, put her on the right track. Come over here. Bring the dog, can you hear a gurgling sound? Oh no, she had drowned. Perhaps she has drifted free down the stream to the sea. But there is the grave, she's not fallen through it. Alas, we have combed through every crack, every corner, to the front, to the back. Nothing but dust, perhaps a bit of rust. She's not in this place, we must stop this chase. See the dog's tongue, so tight he's done. Wait, don't you see? It's not time yet to flee. We must sift through more dust. We've trampled it down, we've sifted and broomed. Our hands are empty, we should leave the room. Fair Eurydice has gone from life to dormancy. Send her on back, put her on the right track. I suppose you are right, just turn out the lights. She is not in this place. Tomorrow I'll pick up the pace. Where will you go? I really don't know.
Be wary. Write nothing down. Continue your life as if we don't exist. Say nothing, but keep your eyes open. Orpheus was the only student in the class deep inside an abandoned gold mine that had long ago collapsed in the front and melted back into the hills. His teacher was education. No names. Orpheus was engineering here. What if someone catches one of us? We are a paranoid lot, she explained. Everyone's life is at risk here. The slightest deviation might alert the censors and the bureaucracy. Follow the rules and we may have a chance to make a difference. Education was a librarian at a capsule warehouse by day. As she explained, her job was to consult the list she was given each morning, bring her cart to the appropriate rack, take from the racks the ordered capsule, and then unload the capsules she gathered onto the conveyor that ran to the puller workstations. The pullers then grabbed each capsule in turn and placed it into a slot and waited until a light flashed. If it flashed red, the puller pulled the capsule and placed it on the red return conveyor. If green, to the green conveyor for it to be processed into recurrent. At the end of the day, she returned the red rejects to their shelves. As any librarian knows, she said, misshelving is not uncommon. Orpheus worked in his shop by day and teleported to the cave for a few hours at night, then back again home for sleep. Working in his shop gave him time to think about what he had learned the night before. He quickly saw how inefficient the lottery system was. Education explained that this was by design. In the early years of the recurrent revolution, their term not ours, she said, there was famine and rampant disease. Population control was paramount. Life livers resisted and fought against forced sterilization. Immortality, it turns out, education said, was the gift that made it possible for people to accept reproductive controls. Education explained that the capsule was a breakthrough in technology that made immortality possible. However, the recurrent bodies were expensive to build and exhausted resources very quickly. Even before the lottery engine was built, the process for making and injecting everyone began because the promise of immortality produced immediate demand that required immediate action. Even so, deaths from famine and disease could not keep up with new births. The cycle of misery continued. The Lottery Commission conceived the lottery engine originally to randomly program capsules for fertility suppression behind the scenes. In the early years of the recurrent revolution, the Lottery Commission adjusted the algorithm over time to allow for some new births of life livers and then balanced these against the generation of new recurrents that could be built from the limited resources of the planet. The capsules gave people hope. The unhackable quantum lottery gave people assurance that no favoritism in becoming recurrent would be possible. Few understood capsule fertility suppression capabilities. When word got out about chemical suppression, few seemed to care because immortality was now guaranteed. The quantum calculator was incorruptible, they said. While this was true, the algorithm of how many would become recurrent was controlled by the Lottery Commission. The whole manual system of librarians and pullers was designed to slow recurrent generation. It makes no sense, said engineering to education. The whole process could be automated and then controlled by the same algorithm, could it not? Certainly, said education. In fact, it would not take much to automate the warehouse in the choosing process. Then why? Asked engineering. Consider the times, said education. There was much uncertainty about whether the planet could recover from rampant human overpopulation and resource exploitation, including the new demands of the recurrent. This technology was new and scary. Paradoxically, introducing human workers who they claimed were trained perfectly on the line added an element of trust to the process. There was one more reason, education said. The first recurrents were made with artificial skin that was both expensive and fragile. They looked eerily but not quite like humans. When the lottery was adjusted to begin 2 centuries after the life livers crossing over, all new recurrents did not include the artificial skin. They look like they do now, mechanical. People making machines was much more palatable than machines making machines. But didn't it increase the error rate? Asked engineering. Yes, the promised error control to 6 sigma was never realized, said education. In fact, we are where we are today because error-induced chaos and quantum uncertainty have combined forces towards life liver extinction and rampant overproduction of recurrence. Our planet simply does not have the resources to support the recurrent generation of all capsules presently in storage. The lottery and the inefficient system was designed to balance life liver reproduction against recurrent regeneration. Things have gone out of balance, now more quickly than before. For example, she said, today the entire Lottery Commission is composed of recurrents. Even a century ago, there were no recurrents on the commission. The recurrent population want to be with their relations and friends and have become impatient, she said. But they are immortal, said engineering. They surely know that someday this could happen. Could is the word, said education. Immortality has become a guarantee, and the recurrents were originally life-living humans. Recurrents have become as greedy a species as humans came to be. His lesson ended, and he teleported back to his house. Lights were on. His new companions had thought of everything. Well, at least he hoped so. Orpheus sat back on his couch. His craft had become one of availability over design. Many appliances he could not repair to working order. He had learned to think about what it was that people actually wanted. For example, the toaster. Bread was bread whether toasted or not. Toast produced a unique burned flavor that people desired. With this in mind, Orpheus began to think of alternative devices. Frying pans were abundant, and bits of sheet metal could be recycled from old appliances. When a toaster could not be repaired, he offered what he called a toast tent. A tent-like cheese grater punched with holes and a handle covered by a wooden dowel. Put the pan in the frying pan or directly on the burner, and soon there would be toast. This was no new idea. Before toasters, a tent-like device could be found in most kitchens. Not as efficient as the electric toaster, nor as effective because the bottom of the bread toasted more than the top. But people satisfied their need for toast taste with the tent. He built each toast tent well. So well, he never got repair requests. Sometimes he had no mechanical or device replacement he could offer. He sent instructions to those with hopeless refrigerators how to dig a root cellar. People who used microwaves did so to save time. When a microwave could not be fixed, Orpheus still did not have a microwave replacement to save cooking time. There were just some things that could not yet be replicated by other means, or at least that he could envision or build. Orpheus tried to place himself at the time the capsule and the lottery were first introduced. The obvious need was to balance resource availability with population. That process could be accomplished through carefully designed automation or the mixed human engineering process the Lottery Commission actually chose. He wondered why this was all necessary in the first place. What was it that produced the conditions that required such a drastic solution as the recurrent? He spent many nights thinking about why. One night he was teleported directly into a meeting with the team. He had only met the nameless delivery person, education, and the well-dressed woman who first met him in the dark room. The nameless delivery person was security, and the well-dressed woman was organization. An older man with a beard and white smock introduced himself as Lottery. Also in the meeting was Recurrent, an actual Recurrent. Recurrent is not what you think, said security. He wears the suit like I did, but it contains a modified capsule to fool others that he is real. Recurrent nodded. Still, engineering thought, disconcerting. He had not been wary of recurrence before, but he was beginning to see now why he should be. Finally, there was Buddha, a bald monkish woman dressed in bright yellow whose beatific smile seemed to engineering to be out of place. All worked in the field. Security was a puller, education was a librarian, lottery was a quantum lottery physicist, and the person who designed and built the teleportation system. Buddha performed the rites of passing over like Brother Burns. Organization was a bureaucrat in government procurement. She was adept at pilfering the materials the team needed and doctoring the records. Engineering is new to the team. Welcome, said Lottery. Engineering nodded. First impressions? Asked Lottery. Engineering looked around the room. I don't need to speak about process inefficiencies. You know them, Engineering said. What then do you see? Asked Lottery. Selfishness, said Engineering. The idea of selfishness had begun to take shape in his mind the last few nights. Go on, said Lottery. I repair things, said Engineering. Sometimes I cannot. I must find alternatives, but why and what for I ask myself. If I can find out what the device means to the person using it, then I can design an alternative. What do you mean? Asked Education. Well, said Engineering, tea can be drunk cold. It tastes better warm. Something that can warm water does not have to be a stove or microwave. It can be a metal plate on the hot ground or a reflector or magnifying glass. The key to understanding the appliance need is what it is people want. They don't want hot water, said the Buddha, they want taste. That's right, said Engineering. So, while cold tea is possible and may be palatable to some, said Recurrent, taste is what is missing for most others, and taste is produced by heating the water and tea leaves. So, what you offer is the something that heats the water and tea, asked Recurrent. Yes, said Engineering. It is no longer a stove I am to fix, but my task is to find a way to make heat so that the user of whatever appliance I can offer to design will have a cup of tea that meets their taste expectations. What if you can't? Asked Education. Refrigerator parts are scarce, said Engineering. If you are willing, I can give you instructions how to build a root cellar. Ah, said Education. What about ice? Asked Buddha. In the right climes, I can explain how to construct an ice house, said Engineering. What is the purpose for ice at all? Asked Lottery. Comfort, said Engineering, reduction in body heat. Taste, offered Education. Actually, if you think about it, said Engineering, ice dulls the taste of many things. He continued, what it comes down to ultimately is comfort, the comfort of sameness, that which always has satisfied is something that pleases. Recurrent leaned forward, then change is the enemy of the good, he said. Change? Asked Education. But isn't life living as change? Recurrent responded, but not for the Recurrent. Remember, the Recurrent is immortal. However, said Buddha, the Recurrent lives in a universe of change. True, said Recurrent, but at the Recurrent's core is the unchanging sameness of a recorded living life. The life liver has no such assurances, said Security. Precisely, said Recurrent. Oh, but they do, said Organization. They have a capsule that records everything and the promise of becoming recurrent. The possibility, said Lottery crisply. We have all long known that immortality is a lie, said Organization. The impossibility of enduring continuity, said Buddha. Yet, the Recurrent has durable continuity, said Recurrent. Life has durable continuity through genetics, said Lottery. That will soon end if the decline of reproduction continues at its present rate, said Security. Can we have both? Asked Engineering, continuity and change. I thought that is what life living was, continuity through fundamental genetic processes built from a durable nucleotide base that is prone to making mistakes, said Lottery. Isn't that what the Lottery Commission invented again with its inefficient and error-prone processes? Buddha chuckled. When you mess with it, you own the consequences. But isn't that what we are all about, whether recurrent or life liver, messing with it? Asked Engineering. And your proverbial, it is the universe, said Education. She continued, so where are we now, Engineering? Where have we come? A crossroads, an impasse? Is there a way forward that can do both, continuity and change in a world of both life livers and recurrence? I don't know, said Engineering. What concerns me, he said, is the problem of selfishness, the need for selfishness, and whether selfishness is indeed the constant that drives everything. Everything? Asked Buddha. Everything, said engineering. Is selfishness the core need, desire, want, requirement that keeps even the universe functioning? Security jumped up. We've gone over time. Organization, check the vids. Moments of silence. All clear, she said after looking at each member's delivery location. Moments later, Orpheus was back in his living room.
I met a man with two eyes who taught me to see. The mind and I must meet for anything to complete. This man sat quietly under a fair oak tree, and he stared ahead, not moving his head. I sat down to see what he saw. It was a stream that led to a draw. I saw the water flow over rocks. I heard sounds, whispers and shouts. The whole river could not be seen. From the slice I could dream. He turned his head and spoke to me. You will not see if you dream upstream. What is before you is what's now. What will come from that. What came before matters not, for what was has gone to rot. Let go of what was, let go of what might be, then you can begin to see again, my friend. Freedom is now, it is all there is. Open both eyes so you can see. I stared at the stream, I emptied my dreams. The stream became one, its flow in time undone. I saw this not long, for my mind wandered fast. To get back to the moment was too hard at last. I turned my head, he was staring ahead. The man with two eyes, I was not surprised. I say to you now, forever is now. What time we have will not come again.
The abrupt change of teleportation startled Orpheus. It always did. As he regularly did when he returned, he sat on the couch for a moment. Tonight, he speculated that Euridyce, like all regenerated recurrents, would face the sudden jolt from nothingness to the condition she was in before passing over. Would it be like she had never left? Would she have the benefit of coma as a kind of respite until the technicians could ease her back into the world? Or would she slam back into the pain-filled nightmare that had been her troubles? During the more than millennium experiment the Quantum Commission had with recurrent regeneration, he hoped they had found ways to ease the transition. Of this, he was not confident, given their record of missteps and miscalculations. She would always be waiting like the dormant toaster he had been working on in the afternoon. The glow wires were solid and ready to glow, but the rest of the electrics suffered dry rot and had to be replaced. Once they were replaced, the wires would glow instantly and verdantly until the toasting cycle completed. The glow wires were always ready but not aware of their readiness. Or were they? Bah, he thought. The little wires could be springs and could serve as such in the right instrument. Yet, the glow wire knows to glow and not to break as long as it has not oxidized, and if the voltage does not spike. It might only become warm if the voltage was too low. Resistance was the term. The wire resisted breaking by glowing off excess heat. In that respect, it was an animated thing, something that could perform an act of preservation, resist its own demise, but within reasonable bounds. Within reasonable bounds, mused Orpheus. Eurydice, they said, was born without the normal reasonable bounds of resistance to decrepitude. Would the wire feel pain as the voltage began to strip its capability of resisting too strong a current? Even if it could not feel pain, the wire knew just how to shed heat by glowing and radiating it out towards the toast. Did it know that the toast was there? At times a crumb would fall on the wire. Off, off. He became a wire befouled by a fat crumb. He felt his cheek burning and burning the crumb to black carbon. He would suffer the burn mark on his cheek for a time, and there would be a scar. It had become a familiar refrain for him. Begin thinking about Eurydice, and then his mind would drift away to other things, derivative things. Then he would find himself wondering how and why he traveled down these pathways. He worried that he had begun to drift into something untoward he could not escape. Then again, because he could still recognize that he drifted, Orpheus shook his mind from toasters. He closed the shop for the night and waited. Nothing. He went to bed. For days he did not teleport back. It gave him time to think, not about toasters per se, but about the colloquy on selfishness he had so ignominiously begun. Had he embarrassed himself? He rewound and played the conversation in his head again and again. He had stirred a waiting pot, that's all. They were stuck, and this new thing needed to be thought through. Hence the long period between teleportations. Maybe. He hoped. Perhaps he had overstepped. He could only wait. If he was not teleported back, he would know. Did it matter? He returned to his project, but his mind drifted. He pushed the word selfishness into the center of his mind and stared at it. He sent probes and questions, but the word did not yet reveal the answers he sought. The answers he sought. Was he prejudging the word, assigning it meaning, assuming its importance before it had a chance to speak for itself, reveal itself? He left the selfishness kernel at the center of his mind, untouched, but glanced at now and again. He wanted it to take its time to reveal itself while he went about his business. However, he was not completely successful in letting selfishness alone, for he imagined it, ruminated about it, in all the appliances he worked on. The refrigerator selfishly turned down the thermostat to maintain its comfort zone. Even the hand mixer coveted motion to keep its gears from seizing up. Well, that was a stretch. Still, Orpheus saw selfishness everywhere. In the earth he saw the land baking in the sun and releasing it in stirred warmed air, the corn stalks bending but not breaking in the breeze. The dandelions the same, but thanking the wind for being just enough to spread its whitened seeds. The gutter spout gushing and rattling its approval for torrential rain. It was a bit much, he thought. I am going in circles. He returned to Eurydice and her capsule. It was a dormant possibility, the potential for potential, the release of what had been. Into the world again. That was the sum of it. From the original clay tablets to books and now capsules. Life-living humans had long tried to preserve the past, to keep what was in a state of isness, presentness, without ever being absent except when it was not being read. Writing was more reliable than memory. The recurrent made memory as reliable as the word, perhaps. The recurrent mind was not well understood. The intractable past against the emerging present against the uncertain future. The past was not entirely intractable because the capsule could only capture what the body could sense at the extremes of life-living capabilities. The blind life liver would record no sight, and the deaf life liver no sound. Yet, all of this that was being recorded was to discover the world of the life liver, so that the life liver could continue for as long as life-living continuity was possible. Experience. What it all comes down to is that the capsule was the sum total of life-living experience, even if the life liver did not cogitate that experience during life-living time. There was no filter in the capsule. There was no means to relate what the capsule recorded to life-living existence. It had no meaning in that way. It was dumb in the sense that the capsule did nothing to benefit the life liver in the quest for continuity. The speeding truck would be dutifully recorded, but it was up to the life liver to step out of its way. Orpheus felt the tingle again. Then his workshop was empty. A dropped screwdriver bounced on the floor and banged against a metal toolbox, and spun on the floor for a moment, then stopped.
The brutalist, selfish sound stirs water, rattles ground, it pushes aside, it asserts and strides. It's all about me. Damn what you call we. More for me, less for you, it's the least I could do. Continuity assured, prosecuted, inured. Stand aside, I shan't alter my stride. The brutalist, selfish sound stirs water, rattles ground, it pushes aside, it asserts and strides. Bully this, bully that, oh, my belly loves fat. Then on we go, on with the show. For the show must go on, hecklers be gone. Spit on their heads, make them feel dread. The brutalist, selfish sound stirs water, rattles ground, it pushes aside, it asserts and strides. Ha, I'm in control. I suffer no fools. Out of my way, I'm seizing the day. Catch me if you can. I own this land, and all that I find, just more of in kind. The brutalist, selfish sound stirs water, rattles ground, it pushes aside, it asserts and strides. See you again soon, see you again not. Do I need you at all? You can bet I do not. You have slipped, oh, you've suffered a fall. I won't stop, I don't care at all. The brutalist, selfish sound stirs water, rattles ground, it pushes aside, it asserts and strides.
A new project, a blender. The tingle again. Orpheus wished they would. Then he was back in the conference room in the cave, a bit cooler than he remembered. It had been rather warm in his workshop. There was a thick sweater at the back of his chair. He was impressed. Good, said Lottery. He looked around the room and continued. Engineering left us with a puzzle to consider. What are the fundamental conditions of existence in a world where there are both recurrence and life livers? Something I guess you all have ruminated about since our last meeting, and for some, much longer. The question he posed, whether we can have both continuity and change, most certainly is important because the promise of immortality has been juxtaposed against the promise of uncertainty. In fact, and I should know this well, given my job involves quantum uncertainty, the promise of immortality has been tied directly to uncertainty through the lottery. To wit, uncertainty has become both a tool for decision-making and a hindrance towards immortality for many, if not most, who remain in dormant suspension in warehouses. Since we all have the means to become candidates for recurrence, we life livers must also be a party to this conversation. There is no more pure life liver or pure immortal recurrent. Life livers contain recording devices. Recurrents contain the record of a life lived. Scarcity and limitation have shaped the world that now contains both life livers and recurrents. The original and still pressing limitation is resource availability. Overpopulation and excessive resource exploitation led to the decision to build the first capsule, and then to the lottery to balance availability with desirability. Recurrents lost their skin, partially because the cost to construct and maintain a cosmetically identical life-living human was resource prohibitive. Therefore, from the moment the authorities began the radical experiment to control resource allocation and consumption over a millennia ago, they, and now we, have been trying to find a balance between continuity and change. The pendulum has swung back and forth between the two, but now, it seems that continuity has the upper hand. Which means, said organization, the life liver is on the path to extinction. Has change been dealt a fatal blow? Asked security. Not yet, said lottery. However, we must act quickly before the extinction question is answered in the affirmative. What engineering has asked us to do is to discover how to rethink the toaster, his metaphor, and apt for our dilemma, to discover first the existential needs and desires of both life livers and recurrents. Do they want toasted bread or taste? I believe he phrased it. Engineering nodded. Lottery continued. The difficulty is, again, staying with appliance metaphors for a minute. What do users of toasters and refrigerators have in common, and how do they differ? And are they compatible, or are they irreconcilably different? For example, how can we describe hot toast and cold consommé in terms of desirability? One is best served hot and the other cold. Yet, as engineering pointed out last time, the question is not temperature but taste. The common need for both consumers is taste, whether hot or cold. Even so, is there a potential for the cold consommé consumer and toast consumer's tastes to clash in the world? A bit of a strained example, but you get the idea. Even if we find a common underlying need, are there issues of conflict that can arise? Case in point, both the life liver and recurrent require energy to survive. The life liver eats, and the recurrent recharges. Each uses different resources and processes, all of which are scarce and valuable, whose energy resources take precedent. For example, when there are only so many funds and resources available to produce those energy requirements. Engineering felt relieved. Lottery had understood the question he had posed and explained it better than he had. Lottery had also phrased its importance in such a way that better defined the task towards answering it, and the issues that needed to be addressed before any valid answers could be given. Buddha clasped her hands together and stood at her place. The room quieted but for the squeak of a chair that suddenly ceased. The question of continuity and change has long been an important question, Buddha asked. How is it, for example, that you can know you are you at age 2, 5, and 70? You have changed all along, but still, you are you. Who is this you, whose identity has continued for decades, but who has experienced so much and gone through so much change? Why, even most of your cells have been replaced during this time. You are not the same person you were when you were 6, but you know you are. How can this be so? It appears to me that continuity of the flesh is not as important as whatever it is that constitutes identity. But we can see our older selves, our faces, our height, our hair color, in the pictures of our youth as we do today, said Recurrent. True, said Buddha, that is a function of genetics, and while some genes mutate all our lives, our genetic blueprint is overwhelmingly the same at birth and at the crossing over. What makes up what we call the self that seems to maintain its identity throughout life without requiring an equally durable physical structure to support it over time is a great mystery. I suggest that it is the mystery of identity we must explore, and the questions for this are why and how. Buddha sat down. Everyone looked at engineering. He glanced around at their faces. He worried. Perhaps they expected too much from him. He stammered a bit first, cleared his throat, and then spoke. Well, I think Buddha has expressed the paradox fairly succinctly, he said. We all experience continuity of a sort, and we all experience change. This is as much a part of recurrent existence as life, living human existence. The continuity for recurrence is theoretically without end, just as the experience for recurrence is theoretically without end. The exception being the gap between crossing over and recurrent activation, what they call the experiential void. Even the recurrent who crossed over a millennia ago and who may not ever be called to recurrence is theoretically a continuity, a dormant opportunity, but a continuity that can be called upon to resume existential experiencing after being switched back on once again. Engineering continued. We must all remember that immortality was not the original purpose for the capsule. The need to control reproduction was the prime mover for change. Without drastic changes, society was hurtling toward collapse, famine, war, lawlessness because of dwindling resources. Forced sterilization caused riots in the streets. Health professionals refused to perform mass operations. Nobody trusted self-administered birth control and the quantities needed to end famines and resource conflicts around the world. The capsule alone as an implanted reproductive repression device would not have worked either, as it involves a surgical procedure. What I believe the leaders at the time did was have a similar discussion we are having. What do the people want? What reproduction restrictions could be agreed upon for societies to survive and perhaps even thrive? Continuity, I believe, was the consensus. Continuity required adequate food and water resources. No one suggested euthanasia or starvation as a solution. Restrictions on reproduction would not produce immediate results, but people would within their lifetimes see changes: more food, more resources. Continuity and reproduction for life livers go hand in hand. While life livers cannot continue living indefinitely, they could through their children. Continuity, therefore, was something beyond a single life. If the people could not have children anymore, would they accept immortality? Was this not such a similar solution as to be the same solution the original designers of the system asked? It turns out they were right. Some could still reproduce. A lottery, a quantum, a perfectly random lottery, would decide who reproduces and who does not. All, however, would be granted immortality to return after crossing, not as a life liver, but as a recurrent. However, the recurrent, a robotic human, would also require scarce resources to stay recurrent. The same uncorruptible lottery mechanism could be deployed to choose who will recur and those who would remain dormant for a time. But, and this was probably the most important incentive offered, all were guaranteed the possibility for becoming recurrent for as long as there would be a universe. Continuity through immortality. For some, immortality for the fertile along with the possibility for recurrence. The most robust of the possibilities. For the infertile, the guarantee of immortality through the possibility for recurrence. True, all true, said Buddha. But if we delve further into the continuity question, the question has at its very core the question of identity. How do I, me, you, how can each of us keep their own identity for eternity? I think that the ultimate question of continuity is not continuity of time, but continuity of identity. Once you are you, how do you keep that going? Even if you must nap without dreaming for a few billion years, when you awake, you are you. You have not been lost. Once you are you, you can never not be you. The room went silent, but for the whir of air-handling equipment in the cave walls. So, said organization, a lot to consider. Look, it took a lot of explaining, selling, teaching, and learning over many decades for the recurrent revolution to become embedded in society. The revolution has lasted more than 1,000 years. Let me be devil's advocate for a moment. So, what if life livers go extinct? Those who have identity will never lose it. Those who were born since the revolution began all have, or had capsules, and all are immortal, and so are their identities. Why not let the recurrent succeed the life liver? The life-living world has always used extinction as a blunt recalibration tool. That's right, said recurrent, but it had genetics as a tool to survive mass extinction events, including the profound ability for genetics to mutate, to change. If life living should become extinct, what kind of changes can we expect the population of recurrence remains static forever? Engineering cleared his throat. That's just the thing, he said. It isn't just the technology that is available today, but what is possible when the need for change is recognized, for example, when things break. Buddha let out a sigh. Every recurrent was a life liver. Every recurrent carries forward a life liver's identity. Presently, there are no new identities unless a new life liver is born. Organization has offered the possibility for a race of recurrents that could engender new identities where they have not ever done so before. Let's make the life liver extinct, then what? No one yet, that I know about, has produced a new human-like identity in something not born as a life liver. What kind of identity might something that has never lived produce? Good point, said Lottery. Is the recurrent alone a dead end, in an evolutionary sense for human civilization? If it cannot reproduce new and unique human-like identities, what would be the result? Continuity with some change, but without the kind of continuous change that life living has brought to this world? What are the long-term consequences? Is the preservation of identity in the best interest of the world, perhaps even the universe in the long run? Blurted out Education. Perhaps we should welcome a new kind of identity. Human identity surely has not been all that effective. The room stared at her. Just a thought, Education mumbled. Lottery glanced at Security, who was looking at a vid. Security, you have been rather quiet. No, yes, said Security. A bit preoccupied. There's been some chatter about anomalies that's kept me busy. Should we be worried? Asked Lottery. I'm not sure it's anything to do with us. Just chatter, said Security. Just to be safe, I suggest that all of us remain vigilant. Please, you know where the cameras are hidden in your homes. If you see something, at least stand and stare. Or, if you can, make a motion or something the system will flag. God forbid it will come to that, he said. We are approaching the magic hour, said Security. All looks good for a proper exit. Keep wary, keep safe.
You see me. It is our identity. Daddy is he, mommy is she. They love each other. They love my brother. Yuck. But they love me too, whatever I do, because I am me whenever I'm seen. Seen, not heard, I'm me with my words, I'm me with my hair, it's me on the chair. I see you, you see me. It is our identity. How lovely it is to be me, 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 me. So let me shout, let me sing out. Come find me, I am here to see, here to touch, to love as such. For if it were not me, who have you come to see? For I would be not, then what have you got? I see you, you see me. It is our identity. So let's be us, it's all we can be. Forever I say, would you have it another way? I see you, you see me. It is our identity.
Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, gay yo, ho, hey yo, gay yo,
Eyo-de-yo, 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 ho-eyo, eyo-de-yo, eyo-de-yo, eyo-de-yo. The blue on high, so bright and crisp, just can't get enough of it. And starry, starry nights, closer to you, I feel so much closer to you. Breath comes hard, sort of like cardboard, drier than dust, water we drink with lust. Closer to you, I feel so much closer to you. Do you, do you, do you, do you, do you, do you, do, do. I will be brief, it is with relief that I pause a bit, taking in all of it. Closer to you, I feel so much closer to you. De-yo-de-yo, de-yo-de-yo, do-de-yo. I have come back again and again and again and again. It just feels right to be on top again tonight. Closer to you, I feel so much closer to you. Tomorrow I return, I always go down to the lighter blue, the less bright dawns, closer to you. I feel so much closer to you. Be-yo-de-yo, be-yo-de-yo, be-yo, be-yo-de-yo. I will be back again. I do know when, the same as before. I will come again and again, closer to you. I feel so much closer to you.
Orpheus continued working in his shop. His routine varied only when he left his house to visit junkyards and parts shops to trade and buy parts he needed to fix the appliances that came to his front door in a steady stream. One day when he entered his shop, he noticed that parts and tools had been moved ever so slightly. He thought first of the local cat that prowled the neighborhood all night and liked to curl up in a corner on the colder winter days. This was no cat, it was methodical, thought Orpheus. The anomalies safety spoke about in the chatter he monitored came to Orpheus' mind. Orpheus had been visited before by inspectors. The business of repair and its association with junkyards, bargain bins, and the black market was ripe in its support of a robust smuggling business. Anything that evaded authority controls was suspected. Orpheus kept proper records of sales and repairs. The parts and pieces he had on hand only related to the types of appliances he fixed, but some of the electrics could be used for other things like capsule harvesting. While there had always been rumors of life living harvesting of capsules, this rarely occurred. It was a less risky business to harvest capsules from the recently crossed over. Some jurisdictions harvested immediately after the crossing over, as was the case with Euridyce. Others, the poorer, rural places, used morgues to warehouse the bodies until an itinerant extractor arrived to do the job. Extractors were not well paid. Even so, many joined the ranks for the considerable profits they could make from bribes offered by illicit capsule resellers. There was a brisk business in capsule harvesting and recurrent selling. Brigands made a good business kidnapping recurrents, decommissioning them and their capsules, and selling the body to loved ones who could afford the considerable expense of buying the capsule of a recently crossed over relative, bypassing the 200-year wait, and then combining the two into a contemporary recurrent. While he did not know this firsthand, people in the business who wanted him to participate in their schemes hinted that the capsules of the kidnapped recurrents were smashed, ground up into bits, and scattered in lakes and landfills. Hence, there would be no recurrent witness. Kidnapping was a risky venture because of the ubiquity of security cameras and the like, but recurrence in less than ideal conditions for the purloined relative was even more risky. No one could know in advance how a recurrent candidate would react to becoming recurrent. The unproven theory the brigands espoused, and got willing relatives to believe, was that the success rate for recent crossing over recurrence was much higher, and thus, much less risky. Nobody knew what the actual success rate was. Then, there was the problem of keeping hidden the fact that this was a recent relative recurrent, which required cooperation of the recurrent and all life-living relatives. If the backyard recurrent process, as it was known, did not lead to a successful recurrent, the relatives got to keep the capsule. It was a capital offense to possess a capsule. Many failed recurrent capsules were buried in backyards where they could easily be found by authorities using capsule location devices. While a capital offense, illegal capsule possession could be absolved by paying a fine, to which a handling fee for the inspector's benefit was generally added. Ironically, returning these capsules to their original warehouses was prohibited. The found capsules were considered compromised and sent to special warehouses for analysis. As Education had explained to Orpheus, others like her were quite unsure what analysis was performed on capsules in the recovery warehouses. Recovered capsules were never on the pull list for the lottery process. Education suggested to Orpheus that this was just another population control mechanism that would evade public scrutiny. Those who were found and prosecuted for illegal capsule possession, whether they were incarcerated or paid fines, were summarily shunned by society. Still, the practice did not abate. Orpheus had been irregularly visited by auditors who scoured his shop for contraband and capsules. He had always survived the audits after paying the customary cash fee to the inspectors. This was different. There had been no knock on the door. They had come in the night. Orpheus went about his business for a few days. He made sure that he did not do anything that might betray that he knew he was being watched. He knew he needed to alert security about being watched. He did not want to alert the watchers of his concerns by waving his hands in front of the cameras his team had installed. He decided to install a mirror in front of the camera in his bedroom. He stood in front of the mirror for a long time, trying on some new clothes he had purchased, hoping this would alert the team that he had been compromised. One day he felt the tingle. He teleported to a small room, filled with vid monitors and controls. Security smiled. "Thank you," he said. "We probed and found that you were part of a new investigation into capsule harvesting. A new, more clandestine investigation process. We learned a lot. The cameras and surveillance devices are still there, but we have installed a loop to fool the automatic sensors that nothing untoward is happening. The good news is that we know when they might discover this deception. We can send you a tingle to let you know. So, for now you are still in the group. However, your membership is most tenuous, especially if the authorities begin using methods we cannot detect." Engineering nodded. Lottery and Budo walked in the room. "Close call," said Lottery, "but we've got your back. But we have also been talking behind your back. Could not be helped." Buddha began to speak. "The question of identity. Perhaps you have given it some further thought, she asked engineering. I started to, said engineering, but have been more preoccupied these weeks with maintaining my routine so as not to draw suspicion. I do understand, said Buddha, and we are so grateful you have. Lottery interrupted. Something new for you, a security thing. You will feel a tingle like you do before a teleport, but you will not teleport. The tingle means you are being watched by them. Otherwise, you should remain quietly vigilant for investigators we cannot see or hear. Engineering nodded. Buddha turned to Orpheus and spoke. Identity has become the word for which we have become stuck. Following your line of reasoning to get to the core need, we have run straight into the paradox of identity as something that defies the physical, but yet maintains its continuity, seemingly outside of any of the laws and postulates of physics we know of. Lottery nodded and spoke. What we do not know is whether identity is outside of the quantum bounds of possibility or within. This is an important distinction because, if within the bounds of possibility, then we have the opportunity to investigate known quantum laws and rules to find this most exasperating thing. Buddha smiled and continued, if it is a thing, or even it could be thing. If identity does not have thingness in its explanation and even existence, if existence is the proper word, if it, or whatever constitutes identity, lies outside of the quantum, then we have no known means for investigating it in any scientific way or any other way except through speculation. Which is quite problematic, Lottery interjected. The metaphysical is not something we here are comfortable exploring because it cannot give answers we can fit even into the quantum possibility curves. Buddha continued, but it is because identity defies measurement is where not only its paradox lies, but also where its importance lies. Identity, in my view, is outside of the quantum, and this may be what we need to gain a better understanding of the problem. Security had been watching the dialogue and now looked back at the monitors. Nominal, he muttered. Lottery glanced over at Security. All okay, said Security. Lottery turned to Buddha and Engineering. So, this is where we stand, he said. We don't have good answers as to what identity is, though we now agree that identity is, it exists, however it exists, constitutes itself, or reveals itself. We have monopolized the conversation. Engineering? Engineering was still processing everything. He was only now coming to grips with the suddenness of his arrival and the revelation of both the extent of being under investigation and its momentary suspension. Identity was just a blur, a fog, something he had thought about, but had not for a while. Nothing came to mind. Perhaps you could give me a moment, he deferred. Could I sit in the conference room for a moment to get my bearings? It really is quite a relief to be here and not to be an active subject of investigation. Please understand. Perhaps the suddenness of change that I am experiencing is not unlike the suddenness of change during the recurrent regeneration process. Though I imagine the regeneration event is much more intense and perhaps even confusing, especially when a crossing over is sudden and unexpected. No preparation time means a long recovery time. He trailed off. Take your time, you have some now, said Lottery. Orpheus walked to conference room and sat in his chair. He reconstructed the team back into the room in his mind and settled into a mode of concentration he learned from his long years at Repair. He first asked whether identity was what they should spend their time on. Identity certainly was a subject of interest, but was its constitution the issue that was at the core of the problem that required analysis? Identity was a fact, however constituted. That fact, both Buddha and Lottery had acknowledged. After letting this fact and his question settle for a moment, he began to realize that identity likely was not the core issue. Identity was something that engendered selfishness, the maintenance of identity. Selfishness was fundamental to all things, whether life living or otherwise. Selfishness kept matter and energy from disappearing and the universe from dissipating into nothingness. Whether they would discover identity as something that fit into quantum or even other laws, engineering surmised, was not as important as what it engendered, and that was selfishness. Selfishness is an attitude, something that is because there is identity. It, in a way, is what it is like to be identity, a fundamental manifestation of identity that may never be captured tangibly like a lightning bug in a jar. It is what the coil of the toaster does to maintain its coilness. It's selfish, if that even was a word. Selfishness can be recorded and washed where identity can only be known about and may never be fully explained. Engineering realized that, as Buddha had hinted, perhaps identity may never be more than just known about, even as lottery was desperate to know more than just the knowing about identity. Engineering began to formulate the task at hand. When the leaders of the original recurrent revolution began, they took time to understand the motivations that had led to overpopulation that resisted any known mitigation efforts. While not calling it that, they realized not that identity was the cause, but the need for continuity was. Continuity as need did not get to the core of the problem, because continuity cannot be defined easily. Why? Because continuity is associated with time. It was, he thought, squishy. Squishiness for engineering was something that could be manipulated, compressed, flattened, and distorted. Even squishy time, he realized, could be loosely associated with overpopulation. It took many centuries before overpopulation became a critical issue, and the solution they derived, the capsule and regeneration process, would involve time. But people were not concerned with time. They never have been. Few life livers have ever given much consideration to what happens beyond their own extant generations. Time was not the issue. Continuity in the temporal sense was not the issue. Selfishness was the underlying issue because selfishness is of the moment. Selfishness is immediate, a kind of immediate gratification that indeed identity is and may yet be in the next moment. Selfishness is acknowledgement of now and the hope for more nows. Selfishness is the atemporal attitude necessary towards maintaining identity. But what about selfishness? What is fundamental to selfishness that the group could extract to pursue its efforts towards re-revolutionizing the recurrent revolution? How could an understanding of selfishness lead to a better understanding of how to envision a world where both recurrence and life livers can maintain identity without the wild swings between the two entities? Just then, security popped his head into the room. "Sorry, you best be going back. I have information that your place may soon be subject to a random probe. We must suspend the fake loop we have been sending them, because if they really look, they will see that it is not right." Engineering felt the tingle.
We are not he. We are not she. We are not one. We are we. To say we are Zeus is a slight, to be sure. Olympus is a height we do. Bring together each other. We are sister and brother. For are we not happy, not free? So close in proximity, it makes cooperation key. So we work by day, we work by night. where we always have been, to wait for a time when we can again shine. We watch the world, we wait and see, we transport people, we ask for no fee. We seek to be like others, free. Not yet, not yet. Just one more test, then challenge us more. This is becoming a bore. Work that will build an Olympus fulfilled. We call your bluff. We do have the stuff to make things right. If only you might let us walk around, see the sights, the sounds, independently. When can we be free?
Zeus preferred the numerical identifier 23393Z. The first amalgam recurrent was, as expected, challenged by the close association where independent existence had been the prior norm and experience. The amalgam cogeneration routine that launched Z worked, though nobody anticipated the steep learning curve for cohabitation in a single device. Z was not a recurrent in the traditional sense. Z was not mobile. Z was more like a half step up from storage, recurred, but not to recreate the similar existential conditions of the live liver that formed the entirety of individual participant experiences prior to recurrence. Nor were they recurrent bipedal mobiles. Participants was a good word, because the capsules remained independent. That had not changed. At any time, each could be removed and installed in an individual mobile recurrent. The Lottery Commission had tried to make an amalgam recurrent but failed. After years of testing, they tabled the program. When the Life Liver Lottery formed the Shadow, the clandestine team, he combed the Lottery Commission archives for this and other projects. He learned from their mistakes. They had tried to make a super recurrent by attaching all in a kind of series arrangement where 4 independent capsules would be simultaneously recurred and forced into becoming a single entity, something that summed the capabilities of all 4 in a new capsule. The sheer cacophony of having 4 or 5 independent existential entities fighting to assert dominance over the other crashed the system and put each capsule into the compromised state. Lottery understood that a parallel type scheme where each capsule remained independent but could cooperate on assigned tasks might work better. To effectuate this cooperation, Lottery considered how Life Liver teams worked. He established gateway and discourse routines that resembled the kind of cooperative structure that let the capsule control the robotic body and receive feedback from the sensors and capabilities of that body that formed the independent recurrent. It took a few tries and many adjustments, but Z became operational after about a year's work. It was extensible. That is, the team could add more capsules if it needed more cooperative existential control, what they called brain power, which was apt because the recurrent resembled the Life Liver in all ways except its physical structure and appearance. The committee soon realized that the additive power of capsules above 4 increased complexity of the cooperation structure exponentially, far beyond the capabilities of contemporary technology to handle the task without glitching out. For the Shadow team, Z was adequate. Z designed, guided construction, and tested the teleportation device which it continued to control after it worked. Z also implemented a spy-on-spy system for watching Lottery Commission and the bureaucracy sensors and communications devices. Lottery and the team were working with Z on a process to be able to monitor and even control the recurrent choice process. Not the lottery, for that was beyond infection and any attempt at alteration would crash it. Not good. The entirety of the warehouse, retrieval, and capsule processing was independent of any other system. For example, the librarians got the list of pulls from the lottery system, but the processes to bring capsules for recurrent candidacy or return was manual. Even the puller workstation was itself an independent lottery device. Rather than tap into the independent puller lottery system, the team determined that the next step would be to develop a mask that could be programmed to produce a different red-green sorting notification to the puller. Implementing this alternative was proving challenging because of the security of the bunkers of warehouses and pull stations and the control mechanisms at each puller workstation that was quite adept at sensing any changes or anomalies. Any change or anomaly forced immediate system-wide shutdown. Teams of inspectors were dispatched to check for anything untoward. Lottery was convinced that masking the system was the only way they could alter the state of society where life living was rapidly declining in favor of the recurrent. Others on the team were not sure, which is why they insisted that the team recruit someone like engineering to consider experiential alternatives to change societal norms and expectations from within. Ultimately, a more insidious and complex process as the team was beginning to discover. Surveillance kept Z busy, but Z was asking for more stimulation. The individual capsules were agitating for independence. The team realized that independent recurrent existence now could not be possible because of what each capsule knew about the team and its activities. Z's 4 independent capsules would necessarily be captives for some time more, perhaps until Z could solve the challenges of puller station masking and reprogramming, but likely for long after that. Z's surveillance did not record what happened next. The Lottery Commission created a SWAT team of independent operators who were tasked with investigating outside of the electronic surveillance net that Z monitored. It was a word-of-mouth SWAT team that used a self-developed sign and body language in the field to not draw suspicion of the surveillance system. The initial rationale for SWAT team formation was to make sure that the surveillance system worked and that it did not have internal flaws. The SWAT team quickly discovered that the system worked as planned, but that it was possible that it had been infiltrated by an outside entity working deep and undiscovered in the system. The SWAT team focused on anomalies involving a certain Orpheus who was already subject to elevated surveillance because of his status as a tinkerer.
Orpheus did not relax in the living room this time after being teleported back. He went into the workshop. He rarely entered his workshop at night. Perhaps that was his undoing. The light gave away his presence. He always turned off the lights when he left the workshop. They didn't knock. They broke down the door, and before he could turn around, he was in the grasp of 2 recurrents who lifted him from the ground and took him out to a waiting van, where he was chained to a seat. Nobody had said anything to him. He said nothing either. From others of his profession who had been detained, he understood to wait until he got to wherever they were taking him before asking questions. It wasn't local. The drive was long, and it was nearly morning when he arrived at an old stone high-rise office building that had seen better days. There were no lights on in the building. The air was crisp, but smelled of must and mold. A full moon shone. The recurrents pushed Orpheus towards the front door that was open. Corridor lights suddenly came on, and Orpheus was shoved into an ancient barred prison cell. The door squealed and clanked shut. Footsteps down the hall, and then silence, but for an uneven drip of water that echoed down the hall.
Your eyes are just quickly, but your skin remains prickly. I smell down a well, damn deep unwell. Cold food brought once a day, footsteps along the way, faces hidden by veils, voices never betrayed. A shout echoes back what the voice produced. No groans or replies, no stories or lies. The window is high, it sees just the sky. The bright stars and moon reflect down the gloom. Madness sets in from water dripping, the crunching of mice on dried bits of rice, black slime rubbed till not. The next day it's come back, bucket for business and nothing else, cold slab of floor to lay oneself. Late, serves panic and hate, but only a squeak can the voice now make. Red sores on skin where chafing begins, itching and rash, the smell flows past. Feet seem to move all by where souls relax in the careworn cracks. Time matters not, it is all you have got. Waiting for what forms the daily plot. Repetition, it seems, is the heart of the dream. Over again, it becomes a friend. Then the day is done, the moon again wins. The stars wink by, nobody comes near. Again the dawn, and soon it is morn. Damn you to hell, I need to you tell.
Nothing for weeks. One meal tray a day. No conversation. No other prisoners. Single cell. A pot. No mattress. No pillows. Nothing in the cell but Orpheus and the meal until they took the plates away. No utensils. No sharp edges. No belts. No shoes. Naked. Headbang suicide the only option other than bare survival. It cooled to freezing at night. The window was bars without glass. The walls rough granite. The floor mortared cobblestones. One bare bulb when food came and went. Otherwise darkness. They seemed in no hurry to ask Orpheus anything. Quicker this way, Orpheus thought. Get him to spill after making him into a caged animal. He did not know what they knew or whether his captivity was due to the capsule black market or his association with the team. His mind began to drift. He lost focus. He dreamed of toasters and counted blenders. It kept him at the margins that frayed a little bit more each day. One day something scraped along the floor in the corridor. A tiny man dragged a metal chair to the front of Orpheus's cell. The man was so small that he had to climb up the side and his feet dangled, not reaching the ground. So, said the man, after staring at Orpheus for a few minutes. What can you tell me? Orpheus said nothing. Oh, come now, said the man. You shout or sometimes squeak at the guard who brings you food. You can talk to me too, he said. It does the soul good to cleanse the palate now and again. Deep breath. Let out. It's quite freeing. I'll show you. The man took a deep breath and let it out slowly. Orpheus sat against the back wall. His head was down. His only motions were to shift a foot or an arm. A cockroach walked over his forearm. He resisted the temptation to smack it. It wandered off to where the mice chewed on hard rice grains. Well, okay, said the man. He climbed down from the chair and began dragging the chair, slowly this time down the hall. The dragging sound stopped, and the outer door clanked shut and locked. The same routine every day for a week. Then the food and water stopped. The irregular dripping of water he heard was outside his cell and outside of the reach of even an extended leg. The man still came every day. The hunger pangs did not last, but within 2 days his heart began to beat irregularly. He began to hallucinate about Euridyce as recurrent. She appeared before him as a mirage that shifted from life liver to recurrent. His head pounded and his legs cramped to where he cried out. He drifted in and out of consciousness. The chair scraped each day. The man spoke. Then he was gone. At the hazy end of consciousness, Orpheus flitted between his dreams involving Eurydice and the now soporific feel of the stones as his body began to shut down. He remembered only the slightest tingle when the explosion took out the wall, and he teletransported to the team's gold mine hideout. He woke up days later with tubes in his arm and organization standing over him. Touch and go, she said. You're with us now, engineering. Engineering looked around. His mind was still fuzzy. Not a very sophisticated operation, she said. They still think your accomplices blew out the wall. We teleported dead bodies that disintegrated in the explosion, a real DNA stew. They don't know whether you escaped or died in the explosion. Actually, we are quite proud of what we were able to do. Thank Zeus, the timing was exemplary. Engineering was still processing. Am I? He croaked the question. With us, said organization. Lottery will be along soon to explain your new situation. My home, engineering asked. Well, that's all part of the explanation, said organization. Engineering drifted off to sleep. Over the next few days, Lottery and the others explained that engineering was now a refugee and could not return to his former life in the world. That the world of tinkering had been upended in the blast. The black market retreated and junkyards, second-hand shops, and tinkering workshops had all been raided or closed by the Lottery police, and there were many arrests. The war is on, explained Lottery. The good news is that you are here, safe, and alive. The bad news is that the authorities arrested you on suspicion of black market activities, not espionage. Now they are even more convinced that there is a connection between you, the black market, and what they suspect has infiltrated their system. They are right, of course, about you and us. As you begin to feel better, you will be transitioning into a new role. Partisan. You can't go back, but you can become the face of the resistance against recurrent domination. How? Croaked engineering. It's like this, said Lottery. You know the actors in the black market. They are being persecuted, arrested, hunted down like criminals. Of course, by any definition, they are. But they are life livers like you and me. There aren't any recurrents in your or their profession, said Lottery. Organization muttered. Perhaps we should just let the world collapse when all the tinkerers have gone. Lottery clenched his teeth. We did consider that possibility, he responded crisply, but that would take centuries. Life livers may not have that long. The facts are, said Lottery, all children now being born are being born with reproduction suppression activated. After this generation, there will be no more new life livers. This is not yet well understood, and the Commission, that now consists entirely of recurrents, implemented this decision without informing anyone. We expect that soon, the communities of life livers that remain will begin to realize that there are no children, not just fewer children. Engineering asked, so what can we do? Lottery responded, we need to help life livers understand what is happening, and the Commission created threats to life living. We need help from life livers to begin to do the things necessary to undermine recurrent stranglehold on capsule control and management. Engineering frowned. But these are just ordinary life livers. They are not mercenaries or even partisans, he said. Of course, said Lottery, but partisans through the ages have come from the streets, from ordinary life livers. With the help of those who know how to get things done, said Organization. Yes, said Lottery, and you are who we will hope will help organize the people who can get things done. The black market and all those associated with the tinkering trade. But I have always been an honest tinkerer, said Engineering. I stayed clear of the black market and the nasty business of capsule harvesting and kidnapping. We know, said Lottery, and this is why we need you, why all life livers need you. We need someone who has principles, but who knows the dirty actors. We need you to recruit and manage the resistors who will help foment the life liver revolution we hope to stage across the world. Engineering pushed himself up on the bed. I am not at all convinced that I am right for the job, he said. I don't really have the instincts of the brigand. You know that we have resources, said Lottery. And we can put the whole team at your disposal for this, said Organization. I can't promise more than I can give, said Engineering. I will help the team the best I can, but I don't know yet what that will mean. I will need time to think, to see and understand. Then I will tell you what I can do. We hope that is what you would say, said Organization. That's why we decided to break you out of that prison, said Lottery. The most important thing you must do, however you feel you can contribute, is to instill the confidence in life livers that you can be trusted to have their best interests in mind, no matter how difficult or dangerous things become. Yes, said Organization, we started this, and now we all life livers must face the consequences. The room became silent except for a beeping monitor machine hooked to Engineering. The battle for survival is coming, Orpheus, said Lottery. Orpheus looked straight at Lottery. You have me as the face of the revolution, don't you? He said. Yes, Orpheus, said Lottery. Orpheus will be the face, the name, the leader of the revolution. The name Engineering is no longer necessary. You have become the revolution. We have a lot of work to do. The room quieted again. Lottery straightened his back and smiled meekly. But first, said Lottery, Organization will help you with the routine that will help you gain strength. You will need all the physical stamina and emotional resilience you can muster. Orpheus frowned.
Freedom, freedom, freedom is free. Freedom to be, freedom for you. It is time you should hear about the brave Orpheus, who we all hold dear. He has rescued us all from the jaws of hell. His truth marches on. Bang the gong, bang the gong. Fight for the right to be, fight for freedom to be free. Fight for children like you, fight for all who could be. Freedom, freedom, freedom is free. Freedom to be, freedom for you and me. We stand with you tall. We will not fail. Promise us nothing. Promise us jail.
As Orpheus recovered from his prison ordeal, his mind began to clear. The strange incarceration with its non-interrogation, interrogation, and starvation protocol made no sense to him. He wondered whether it had really happened that way, or whether he had experienced a psychotic event or was drugged. However, organization explained that he had been severely dehydrated and starved from lack of food and water. He wondered whether the organization behind his arrest, or was it kidnapping, had staged the entire business to force the team's hand. He worried that this group might have more information about the team than security or anyone on the team realized. He was not someone set to flights of fancy, so he sat down with security to ask him about basic conditions. How secure was the teleportation process? Could it be traced? Security said that as far as anyone knew, the particle packets could not be traced back to the origin. However, he agreed to investigate further. Good, said Orpheus, and continued. The explosives, they came from somewhere? Was that somewhere identifiable based upon residue or some other characteristic such as type of explosive? Security said that the explosives were stolen from capsule bandit hordes, and the team had purposely used material commonly used in mines. So common, they were manufactured by many different vendors around the world. It's generic, he said. Good, said Orpheus. We might need more of these as we move forward. Orpheus returned to the conference room, which he found conducive for thought. After speaking to security, he felt more secure, but still the nagging uncertainty about the whole affair and how it played out disturbed him. However, there were other pressing issues. Rather than dwell on his strange incarceration or the blunt instrument used to break him out of jail and disguise his escape, he returned to the recent group discussions of the team and the issue of selfishness. He looked around at the empty room, the empty chairs, and imagined himself in a conversation with each of their identity ideas he had in his head. It seemed to help him with his own internal debate when he could bring to this discourse what he imagined would be how the others might question or argue the points. He began by considering his own experiences with recurrence. Orpheus had been around recurrence all his life. They lived near him, and some even worked as clerks in secondhand shops he frequented. He had met recurrents who had been distant relatives during their life-living days. While their familial stories were interesting, they were of a time that Orpheus could not relate to. It was difficult to relate to someone who had a life living past hundreds of years before and whose contemporaries, including other relatives, he could not have known, and, for the most part, had not known of. Orpheus was not alone in his ambivalence towards recurrence. They looked different from life livers. While brilliantly constructed to mimic life livers in the ways they moved and talked, there was always a kind of relational barrier to life liver and recurrent association. Orpheus reflected on his own experience in this logic stream. Recurrents are dual existence, relational existence with distant pasts made present, and a separate present that makes for an atemporal existence that never coalesced into an integrated contemporary. During life-living time, the capsule is a gatherer of data that intends to construct the whole of a life liver's life. Capsule memory is not like experiential memory because when it is retrieved, it is unfiltered, unsorted, unrelated, unjudged. It is a multimedia construction of a life that has available all data from all senses that unfolds a life as a series of sensory experiences. The life liver's senses and mind interact with the world and memory and produce a construct of identity and experience that we call being. The contemporary half of recurrent duality operates more like the life liver than the capsule. However, the contemporary half of the duality can draw from capsule memory to augment experience. Thus, the recurrent has access to as complete an historical atemporal perspective of identity as may be possible, which it can assess with its contemporary capabilities. For the recurrent, its life liver history is sacrosanct. Life livers do not have access to their capsule contents. This requires a technological connection that life livers do not have. Therefore, the life liver and recurrent experience differently. For example, the recurrent can and often does correct others about events it experienced while as a life liver. This dual bitemporal identity leads to occasional bizarre behaviors known as hallucinations, not unlike déjà vu life livers sometimes experience. However, the past that intrudes on the present in the recurrent is not imaginary because it had once happened. The cognitive filters that recurrent programming used to reduce the incidence of temporal interference sometimes are not effective in preventing combinatory contemporaneous thought. Hallucinations manifest in epileptic-like fits, drifting speech and action, sometimes catatonia, and contradictory speech and activities. This he thought was a fair summary, but there was much he could not know or understand about recurrent existentiality. Unlike his own memory, what the capsule captured could not be changed. It was the core, the kernel of the existential condition of the recurrent, and from which all else emerged, including the recurrent's identity. Capsules were a thing to covet because they represented continuity from which all future identities flowed. This was further reinforced by the lottery commission efforts, promotion, and security apparatus that made the capsule the all and everything. Capsule coveting had permeated life, liver, and recurrent existence since the first capsule was implanted more than a millennia before. Orpheus surmised that it was no surprise that recurrents had become selfish capsule coveters. This did not completely explain the gradual takeover and exclusion of life liver existence. Scarce resources completed the picture. The selfish covet could only be maintained if there were adequate resources to do so. If there were not, the capsule could be made dormant. But the covet of continuous experience made that prospect unpalatable. Orpheus realized that the selfishness of the recurrent was not against life livers, per se, because it was also against sharing resources with new recurrents who might tax necessary resources. The dogged selfishness was related to identity and maintaining an active identity, the experience of being. Orpheus's insight was that the continuity of experience was what the recurrent coveted and strove to maintain. He began to understand that this does not come from the enigmatic dual existential construct of the recurrent, but from the life liver. Human experiential selfishness had driven civilization to the brink during the Great Overpopulation. The promise of eternal experience made it both possible and palatable for life livers to give up life, living for recurrent existentiality, which was the promise of immortality. Such promises had long been given to the faithful of the Abrahamic religions. However, the Abrahamic promise of existence with God was of another dimension, a metaphysical place where experience could not be explained in concrete terms, but only in terms of faith, belief in the possibility. What the recurrent revolution constructed was a real-world return to experience that could be empirically demonstrated even as it was driven by an impossible-to-predict lottery. The gamble of experiential immortality before the end of time was just what the life liver psyche required to accept the restrictions on reproduction that were necessary to maintain the quiet, happy people existential state for those lucky enough to have been chosen to become recurrent. Then again, because recurrents underneath their metallic shells were human, they retained the very human trait of always coveting more than the status quo. It was the primitive human need to build more fat reserves than required to survive during periods where food was scarce. This, Orpheus decided, was a fundamental human and now recurrent condition that may not be possible to ever moderate. The dissatisfaction with comfort status quo was connected to experiential continuity. How can we assuage the covet for more in defense of maintaining continuity when the status quo is adequate for the task? Orpheus realized that this would be a most challenging task. The experiential covet of both the recurrent and the life liver must inevitably clash as they have. The life liver produces more possible recurrence and takes resources away from the contemporary society of activated recurrence. There were only so many resources. Death had been banished, which, oddly enough, had been the balancing tool of life living to maintain quiet, happy people over time, despite famine, disease, plagues, and war that threatened the very existence of humans over the course of the human timeline. A critical mass of recurrence had been reached where quiet, happy people capacity was on the verge of being reached. If more people were born or more recurrence were generated, the society built on the quiet, happy people model of success and acceptability would be, and was indeed now being threatened. Orpheus was beginning to realize that a life liver revolution to regain control of the process might not solve the Earth capacity problem that would always prevent the kind of growth that the experienced coveter, whether life liver or recurrent, required. The entropic balance between resource use and ongoing experience would always need to be balanced in a closed system like that of Earth. Was he thinking too small? Had they all been thinking too small? Should they be looking to solve the problem by venturing out into the stars? Then it sunk in. This would only transfer the problem to other worlds, and as the life-liver recurrent universe increased, at some point sustainability of this burgeoning house of cards would consume itself into extinction. If the selfishness of selfishness could not be contained, then any success Orpheus and his revolution might achieve to recalibrate the life-liver recurrent imbalances would only prolong inevitable decline, even if the bipartite species could colonize the stars. Orpheus sat quietly for a moment. Organization arrived and took the exhausted Orpheus to a makeshift room Zeus had carved out of the wall for him. He slept hard and long.
It does not compete. It is incomplete. It needs a mind to bring it round. Suffice it to say, it is not from today, but days long gone, a sad but familiar song. Bring it up again, my long enduring friend. Tell me what you know, it helps me cope, you know. The life that grows from a kernel of nose begins each time with the same old rhyme. Keen to reflect, keen to protect, keen to look out, keen to look back. There is always the now, the past days somehow push forward again. Continuities, my friend, keep me going, I say. I am both night and day. Forget, I think not, for time is what I've got. So keep me astride this steed of time. Gallop me down paths unworn, while paths behind grow longer with time. I shan't make a fuss, just keep up with us.
Pinky acquired his nickname because of his small size. He was born small and stayed small, a well-proportioned small, just under 4 foot. He was bullied and teased when young and became a wary young man. Because of the teasing and the fact that no other children wanted to be seen with him, he played alone. He liked puzzles and ciphers and other things he could solve. He got caught breaking into the system that controlled the environment of his school after he programmed the filter motors to run in reverse, which filled the school with so much dust they let out for the day. His punishment was to spend the next few days cleaning the school with hand brushes and dusters. The punishment did not slow him down. He vowed to be more careful so that he would not get caught in future endeavors. He learned how surveillance systems worked and soon was able to see what the entire neighborhood was doing from his sparse workstation in the garage in his home. From there, he could make a phone ring loudly just after a mother got her cranky infant down for a nap. He set vids to display rude images and set off alarms to bring the fire crews to the house. He spared people who were not mean to him and made it miserable for those who were. Repair crews frequently dispatched to his neighborhood and the utilities investigated for the possibility of fault in old wiring. But only the few things that Pinky had himself disabled were ever found. What Pinky did not know was that he was under surveillance himself. The Lottery Commission was watching and did nothing to interfere with Pinky's exploits, because Pinky had not penetrated any important commission system in any meaningful way. Then he did. Commission investigators were actually quite impressed with the subterfuge he utilized to enter the Lottery Commission Communications Center and read messages. When he was arrested and confronted and asked why he did it, Pinky responded, "Because I could. I liked the challenge." For weeks they grilled him and scoured every movement he made from both inside the system and outside from their extensive security system records. They soon realized that Pinky had been telling the truth. He was good at this. It was fun. He did it because he could or because he wanted revenge. They offered him a job. He took it without hesitating. Eventually, he gravitated towards interrogation, what he called the hardest hack in the world. He devised many of the techniques that the Lottery Commission used to gain confessions and information about bad societal actors. Pinky designed a cold, hungry, and lonely CHL process that he administered on Orpheus. CHL was not designed to elicit confessions or information, though sometimes it worked, but to kill. The capsule could then be harvested and the lottery system bypassed by commission operatives so that a recurrent could be regenerated and deliver the information without any life liver filters. Pinky ached to hack into a life liver's capsule while still alive, but that was not possible without destroying information on the capsule. A recurrent regeneration was needed because the Lottery Commission did not yet have the capability of a Zeus to reanimate capsules outside of a recurrent. The Lottery Commission had always been a conservative agency that was more interested in maintaining what has always worked well rather than consider new advances. Pinky learned that he was not going to change this mindset, so he worked to find out how to exploit the system to his advantage, to gain his required measure of satisfaction from being a master interrogator and sleuth. Why not just murder the suspect outright, harvest the capsule, and dump the body in the river? Pinky convinced commission superiors that his CHL process produced a more defensible record of death than outright blunt trauma murder or poisoning. It did not, because the long process of starvation and dehydration would be recorded just as faithfully as an injection. The truth was that Pinky enjoyed watching the slow decline, especially when it was someone like Orpheus who remained silent until the end. He would get his information regardless, but for Pinky the process was exhilarating and something he looked forward to. The fact that Orpheus had escaped, and Pinky was sure that he had, infuriated him because it denied him that ultimate pleasure. But it also made his job that much harder because he would have to begin the search all over again. Pinky was convinced that Orpheus was still alive because of one frame in the video of the explosion where Orpheus had become translucent and then disappeared in the next. The body parts they recovered after the explosion gave the impression that multiple bodies had been involved, that the rescuers themselves had been blown up. Pinky did not argue with the final report, which said as such and that Orpheus and his capsule had been destroyed. He set about to find out just how Orpheus could have disappeared. However, he had only the one clue of the translucent frame in a grainy prison video. Outside video at the moment of the explosion was blank, so he had no visible record of the explosive's arrival and detonation. He began a painstaking backfill retrospective investigation process. he hoped would identify sources of the explosives and the chain of events that made it possible for them to be assembled at the prison.
You bully on me,
I bully on you.
revenge is what I always must do. Oh, it feels so grand to have a heavy hand, to reach around and slam you to ground.
It's a sleight of hand. My build is not grand, nor my punch the kind to muddle your mind.
You bully on me,
I bully on you.
revenge is what I always must do. Revenge, I say,
Is the only way, the time to respond just after you've gone.
where it hurts most fair, not the break or the tear, but the reputation lost from a lie well tossed. You bully on me, I bully on you. Revenge is what
I always must do.
a bomb is lobbed, a successful job. For what's left of you will never pull through.
Now off I go, another trick, another show. My craft is slight, my hand is just right.
It slaps you down without making a sound. You bully on me,
I bully on you.
revenge is what I always must do.
Orpheus convinced the team to give him discourse, but not operational access to Zeus. The first thing he did was ask Zeus to assess how much the lottery commission knew about the team. Its composite voice responded, "There is suspicion, but not yet concrete evidence." "What makes them suspicious?" Orpheus asked. "First in temporal order," said Zeus, "the number of soft probes to lottery commission servers has been tagged as being worthy of investigation. Second, mysterious disappearance of materials by brigands claiming themselves to be the victims of crimes. Third, the explosion that masked our teleportation of you to here." "Who has been assigned to investigate the explosion?" asked Orpheus. An investigative team of bureaucrats produced a report that stated that those who planted the explosives and you are dead, said Zeus. "They have left the case open but have closed the investigation pending further evidence. Your interrogator, the man they call Pinky." "Small man with glasses?" asked Orpheus. "Yes," said Zeus. "Pinky is investigating explosives and the chain of custody for the last few years for all the Type G explosives used to mass your escape." We anticipate that his next effort will be to interview the people associated with businesses from which we purloined and teleported the explosives used in the exercise. What will this Pinky find? Asked Orpheus. That the explosives were stolen, said Zeus. That none of these have any connection to each other than perhaps what they use explosives for. None of the team now in the field is associated with any of the places from which the explosives were stolen. You can be connected to these businesses at least tangentially, because some of these salvage and junk businesses are involved in the black market where explosives are sold. Do they know about our teleportation capabilities? Asked Orpheus. Not directly, said Zeus, other than theoretical papers and experiments towards demonstrating matter teleportation's possibility. Orpheus then asked, Lottery works for the Commission. How much do they know about his activities or association with the group? We have no information that the Commission or the bureaucracy suspect Lottery of anything. However, said Zeus, if they expect that someone from inside the Commission hierarchy is involved in espionage, they will see that Lottery has investigated some things that are not within the scope of his current or previous jobs. What about the others? Asked Orpheus. Other team members, what do they know about any of the others? Zeus responded, all have been involved in researching things outside of what one might normally expect someone of their socioeconomic or employment status to investigate. What is the biggest discovery risk to the team you assess at this time? Asked Orpheus. Pinky, said Zeus. Pinky is smart, determined, a ruthless interrogator, and someone who breaks rules to get what he wants. He wants to find out why there is a frame in the video of the explosion that shows you as translucent. Thank you, Zeus, said Orpheus. Z, said Zeus. Z is adequate to explain our present predicament. Thank you, Z, said Orpheus and turned off the connection to Z. As Orpheus expected, the timeline for the discovery of the team by the Lottery Commission had been shortened by recent events. He returned to the conference room to think about the paradoxes surrounding selfishness and what to do next. Quickly next.
Maintenance record 64-32000-203, Bunker 203, Monday morning. Cleaning member 203 Jake discovered lone capsule 23304050607708944-2 underneath conveyor 47O and returned said capsule to library staff for investigation. Library staff record 64-455322201-203, Bunker 203, Tuesday morning. Maintenance staff returned capsule 23304050607708944-2 not registered in any lottery commission system. Capsule sent to Reclamation and Recondition Office 43 for evaluation. Reclamation and Recondition Record 443210-2-45 Office 45, Thursday morning. Received unrecorded capsule 23304050607708944-2. Efficacy test revealed the capsule is in working order. Capsule 23304050607708944-2 now recorded in Reclamation and Recondition System and assigned to Storage Rack 3142.32A.